still here.
Jimenez, Perales,
Here.
Cohen, Carrasco,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Esparza, Arenas, Foley,
Here.
Mahan,
Here.
Jones,
Present.
Liccardo.
Present.
Okay, we have quorum.
Okay. Thank you, Grace. We'll start.
And I'm here. I'm so sorry.
And Councilmember Reyes is also present. Okay. Item 3.5 is the amendment to the agreement with Pacific Secured Equities for comprehensive workers' comp services. There's no presentation. Is there? Well, first, let's go to the public. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak on this?
There's no hands from the public.
All right, thank you. Sorry, my computer just went out, so I'm going to have to get back on the Zoom.
Move approval.
Second. Motion from Councilmember Foley, second from the Vice Mayor. I don't see any. Grace, do you see any hands online from the
No.
council? Okay,
No
thank
council
you.
members.
We're going to get it pulled up in just a moment. Let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Perales,
Yes.
Cohen, Carrasco,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza, Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take the next three items together because they're all very much interrelated. Item 6.1 is a climate smart San Jose existing building electrification framework. We're going to take that along with item 6.2, the climate smart American cities climate challenge, climate smart carbon neutral San Jose by 2030 acceleration strategy. And then next will be, we're also taking at the same time item 10.3, which is the parking transportation demand management ordinance. And we're going to see a combined presentation for all three items. There's going to be one public comment for all three of these items because we think they are very closely linked. Everyone will have 2 minutes to comment, and then we will have council deliberation after that. So welcome, Carrie and team.
Mayor, before you begin, I just want to let you know that Councilmember Esparza has a family emergency and she won't be back.
Yes, thank you for that, Councilmember.
Thank you, Carrie Romano, Director, Environmental Services. We're going to start with our Climate Smart San Jose pathway to carbon neutrality by 2030, then go into the building electrification framework, and then go into the transportation item. As the mayor indicated at the start, staff really think these three items go well together, and that it's a more robust, complete conversation having them together so that we can answer everyone's questions in the right context. So a little bit of background, Climate Smart San Jose was actually adopted in 2018, and it aligns with the Paris Agreement focused on energy, water, and mobility. And I think we talked at length in our November study session about how important acting on climate change mitigation is at this point, given the temperature changes globally and fires, et cetera. And that our city decided, thank you all for your unanimous vote, to return with a plan on how we might get to carbon neutrality, not in 2050 as originally envisioned in Climate Smart, but in 2030, much faster, much more accelerated. You can see from the graph up there that we've certainly already made some progress and significant progress, but without adjustment won't meet a 2030 guideline. So when we embarked on crafting this plan, we spent a bit of time with our community on all of the climate smart aspects. And one thing we heard from our community was they want more engagement and they want to be included in the discussion around these because they're really the folks that are going to need to make the needed adjustments. And so with that, we've established a vision to help guide our work in carbon neutrality. And the vision was amended by the Transportation and Environment Committee But our mission, our vision is very important to us, and our vision of moving towards climate neutrality by 2030 is that San Jose will become a better, stronger, and more resilient community by accelerating climate action and achieving carbon neutrality by 2030. And the reason that vision is important to us is it signals to our community that we're not doing this without them, and we're not doing this to them, but we are doing it with them, and that we would like all components of our community to see themselves, their family, and their neighbors in our plan as it evolves. The focus areas are not unexpected. They are the same focused areas that we see in Climate Smart San Jose as the original plan was, but we need to do fewer moves much more quickly, and that will help us impact the 85% of our greenhouse gas emissions that come from transportation, buildings, and our power source. We've already made great progress with San Jose Clean Energy. We've made great progress banning natural gas in new buildings, and the Transportation Department has already led significant mobility change and expansion of electric vehicles, but certainly more work to do. But as we look at how we're going to do this work, we think this framework is important to acknowledge that we need to get outside money to get this done. We need significant influx of funds to help our residents make these changes, but we want to make the changes when they make financial sense, when they make environmental sense, not do them just to do them. We don't pretend to have all the answers today, but what we're bringing forward is a plan that, with your approval, allows us to go have more in-depth conversations with our community and allows us to refine some of the details so that it meets the needs and desires of our community and assures them that by taking climate action, we will live up to our goal of achieving the Good Life 2.0, where for our actions, we are all better off, as is the environment, and that they are not just going to be getting a bill from the city for work that they don't feel that needs to be done. So lots more outreach and partnership to do in that work, but the city departments have all worked together to create a roadmap that we think makes real sense and we think is achievable, assuming we get outside money. Without outside money, it's not likely we will make a 2030 goal, but we will still make progress, but we do know we need to get that outside money. And with that, I'll turn it over to Julie.
Thank you, Carrie. So from the 3 focus areas that Carrie mentioned, we have identified the 4 acceleration strategies that will put us on the pathway to carbon neutrality. Those are within transportation, to move to zero emission vehicles, reducing the miles we travel in our vehicles by at least 20%, and in buildings, switching our appliances from fossil fuel to electric. On the power source side, powering our community with 100% carbon neutral electricity. And as Carrie mentioned, these strategies are already within Climate Smart. We were asked to come back with the acceleration and focus on what are the most important aspects, and these certainly are the ones that we should be focusing on if we want to make significant progress.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Ramses Madhu, Division Manager of Planning Policy and Sustainability for Department of Transportation. Talk about the first 2 strategies here in transportation. First is moving to an electric vehicle fleet. A significant portion of emissions that are coming out of the city and are from transportation, are from vehicles. And to get us towards the goal of zero emissions by 2030, we need to move our fleet to a 90% electric fleet. That's in total. This is a very big lift, and we are looking at all the different avenues to take this on. Our research shows that we need to be focusing this on passenger vehicles as well as trucks and commercial vehicles. They account for the largest percentage by far of those emissions and have the most avenues of change for us to take on. Some of the pieces that we want to take on are increases in EV charging citywide. We currently have about 1,800 charge spots within the city. There is funding out there for already allocated funding for about 10,000 more as of last year. So that's a pretty big number that we're excited to see, but we need 7,500 per year to catch up with what we think we need to get this done. And yeah, and then we need to do a lot of awareness and other projects to kind of get this going. Thank you. Next one, well, electrifying the fleet is going to be the most significant impact over the shorter term of from now to 2030. We cannot forget a larger goal of reducing VMT. Vehicles are vehicles, they take up a lot of space, and we will not be able to convert the entire fleet over to electric. So we do need to continue to reduce the vehicle miles traveled that we're doing. That we need to, strategies that work on that. And what's very interesting about VMT reduction is that it happens kind of later in the process, right? We need to take really big moves, and those take effect over time. And so we need to kind of calculate that time element. And so we are proposing to continue on the same VMT reduction goals that have been proposed in the past. And as many of you have heard us talk many times, the kinds of supporting actions we need to take are the transportation mode shift projects like bike plan, like pedestrianization of more places, like improvements to transit, and like we'll be hearing right after this item, dealing with our parking issues. With that, I'll pass it back to Julie.
For the electrification of existing building strategy, the data shows us that our primary focus should be on electrifying the space and water heating equipment in residential buildings. These two appliances make up about 90% of the residential emissions from natural gas. There are a lot of existing programs and incentives that can support building energy efficiency and electrification, but we'll need further assistance for our low-income communities. We should also keep in mind that rooftop solar and the replacement of appliances at the end of life can significantly improve the economics of home electrification. So this strategy within the pathway has the data informed us of the initial supporting actions around this, which were around streamlining building electrification implementation and ensuring equitable support for our community. The fourth acceleration strategy is a move to 100% carbon neutral electricity. San Jose Clean Energy already offers a very low carbon-based power product and continues to significantly grow its renewable content. Maintaining San Jose Clean Energy's current customer base and seeking to bring more direct access or industrial customers to their service can support San Jose's carbon neutral by 2030 goal. It'll also be important to monitor customer enrollment and green value to evaluate its impact on carbon neutrality goals, as it provides a lower cost option, also with lower carbon neutral power content. Reaching this goal requires deployment of both utility scale and rooftop solar paired with energy storage. And of course, it's really important that we are leading by example in our own operations. While municipal operations are only a minor contributor to the community-wide greenhouse gas emissions, they're under the city's direct control. Our municipal greenhouse gas inventories tell us that we should focus on employee commutes and building emissions. Within the building sector, the airport is a significant portion of emissions, and of that portion, nearly all of the airport's natural gas emissions come from its central utility plant usage. The city's buildings are able to move to 100% renewable electricity quickly as well through San Jose's service option, which offers 100% renewable power. Supporting actions around the city's municipal operations emissions includes further work towards all electric existing buildings, addressing our employee commutes in the city fleet, and also moving to carbon neutral electricity. The scale of the effort is quite large, and we have to acknowledge this as we want to progress towards our goals. It's going to require an unprecedented effort from the city and many other participants in our community. Moving from the current 5% to 90% EVs is equal to an increase of 83,000 passenger EVs per year and approximately 7,500 public and EV chargers per year to support those vehicles. On the VMT side, the VMT reduction by 20% means 2% reduction per year, which Ramsey's mentioned is in line with some of our current goals and some of the pre-COVID VMT reductions we've seen, but it's still a big lift, as we know that VMT reductions in particular take time and funding to do the related infrastructure upgrades that are needed. Achieving 100% carbon neutral power means approximately 650 megawatts of renewables, 300 megawatts of accompanying storage, and 200 megawatts of hybrid or green gas. If we were to achieve 100% of existing building electrification, that would mean upgrading 13% or 43,000 of our existing buildings per year and 9.7 million square feet of commercial space. As we mentioned, these are strategies within Climate Smart, and we need to focus on these to accelerate our efforts. But we do have quite a few supporting resources here. There's quite a few programs that are already out there and incentives that we can take advantage of. We can build more public and private partnerships. There's also significant federal and state funding to initiate and scale our programs. And San Jose Clean Energy anticipates funding programs starting in fiscal year 24-25.
So as we look towards our next step, I mean, obviously we need to ensure we continue to address cost and grid reliability. That's a topic staff have been engaged on for some time. Continue and expand our public engagement and technical analysis. We next year intend to update Climate Smart San Jose, and it's important that the carbon neutral pathway is not the only thing we'll be doing. We still have work on natural working lands that we'll continue to expand and invest in partnership with OSA and others. So we're not doing anything else. We mentioned that these initial 3 target areas get us 85% of the way there. We still have that extra 15% that we need to continue to refine. But frankly, we needed more conversation before we could outline what those might be. But our intent is to acknowledge natural working lands have great value. We need to continue our interest in investment. And then we'll continue to track and report, and as I think we've all mentioned several times, secure funding so that this is something that is achievable, both funding for job development and investment, as well as contractor training, and again, some incentives to help our community take on these needed transitions when it makes sense. And so with that, we'll go to the next topic.
Yep.
This is electrification. So we'll skim over the background as it pertains to Climate Smart San Jose. So we did adopt all electric requirements for new buildings. We adopted our aspirational goal of carbon neutrality, and we started our community framework. And then we had some input from the community that they'd like a little bit more. So we did additional community meetings. We also really changed how we're positioning this particular topic. It's not a plan, it's a framework about how we're going to create a plan and how we're going to get this done. We don't have all the answers right now. We also believe there'll be significant technology changes over the years, and that the economics will make a lot more sense as the market changes. We also know that external agencies are requiring more all electric infrastructure and vehicles as well. And so this is a framework again that requires more discussion around how it gets implemented and when and by who. But we know what needs to be done. It's a matter of what makes sense when, and while that may not sound like an important component, those are the tricky details that help us actually do it. And so I want to make sure our community doesn't think that we're just going down a path without them. Our intent is to do so in partnership and make sure that the financial components make sense for everyone in the community, not just for some.
So just in terms of what is building electrification, it's replacing natural gas appliances in our homes and businesses with electric options, such as heat pumps for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or HVAC systems, as well as heat pumps for water heaters. Some of the benefits of building electrification, or the co-benefits of building electrification, include improved indoor air quality through the elimination of harmful pollutants emitted from natural gas appliances, as well as decreased operating costs due to the increased energy efficiency of electric appliances and heat pumps in particular. as well as ability to increase home energy control and reliability through smart controls and ability to use on-site solar and battery backup. There's quite a bit of momentum already happening around building electrification, and these are just some of the things that we wanted to point out in terms of regional, state, and federal planning and action that makes it clear we are rapidly accelerating to transition towards all electric new and existing buildings across California and even across the United States. The Bay Area Air Quality Management District's draft regulations to phase out the sale of natural gas, space, and water heaters starting in 2027. That's proposed regulations that they have out right now. The 2022 California Building Code strongly incentivizes all electric new construction, and each cycle becomes increasingly so. There's significant state and federal funding allocation supporting building decarbonization. By supporting building electrification, the city can help to prepare our residents and businesses for this electrification future. As Carrie mentioned, we did have quite a bit of community input, both from the broader community as well as historically marginalized communities, in order to minimize the potential negative impacts and maximize the benefits of this important transition for all of our San Jose residents. That engagement included over 10 meetings with community-based organization partners, the International Children's Assistance Network, or ICANN, and Vegilution, to ensure that the city included the perspectives of Spanish and Vietnamese-speaking residents and communities that are most vulnerable to poor air quality and other climate impacts. We held 3 community forums with more than 40 community-based organizations, labor organizations, environmental organizations, nonprofits, and housing organizations, as well as 5 public information center sessions promoted to more than 450 stakeholders, including neighborhood associations, to share the draft with the broader community and gather input to refine the framework that we're presenting to you today. The city's framework for existing building electrification natural gas for electric equipment. What it does is it provides the city with guidance on how to support the community's transition away from natural gas usage in existing homes and businesses. It includes co-created solutions with community-based organizations and the broader community as well, in order to reach our goal of making electrification accessible and beneficial for all. Based on community input, the framework is centered around 4 community priorities. Those are minimizing any increases to housing and energy costs, promoting better health and air quality, supporting high-quality job opportunities, and providing clean and reliable energy. The framework recommends supportive actions intended to increase the positive health, economic, and resiliency benefits that building electrification can bring to San Jose. So on the housing and energy cost focused area, actions include expanding rebate awareness and launching a retrofit accelerator program. Within the health and air quality focus areas, actions included raising awareness around the health impacts of using gas and supporting community-led outreach. Within the high quality jobs opportunities focus area, actions included supporting contractor training opportunities and improving permit compliance. Within the clean and reliable energy focused areas, actions included creating community resiliency hubs and expanding access to renewable energy. We did receive input from the community, and some of the frequently asked questions centered around cost and grid reliability. They were a significant interest both to our community and I know also to our council members. In terms of the cost of building electrification, by focusing on the biggest gas uses in a single family home, the space and water heating that I mentioned earlier, the cost is estimated to between $2,500 to $22,000 to fully electrify a home. That's not including any incentives or operational cost savings. And that's depending on the extent of the upgrade. Choosing electric appliances instead of gas alternatives, however, is estimated to cost between 14 to 17% less than if you chose the gas version of those. A panel upgrade, if needed, would cost approximately $4,300. Electric appliances also typically do reduce total home energy costs, the operational costs. In terms of grid reliability, state agencies and PG&E are planning for future electricity needs and upgrading the grid to accommodate those needs. It's important to point out that modern gas appliances typically aren't operational in power outages, while electric appliances can safely use a backup power source like generators, solar, and our batteries. Electric appliances can benefit from current and emerging technologies that allow residents to control the time of usage of the energy in their home, as well as to use those backup power sources.
You want me in the camera?
If approved, the framework for existing building electrification can help to guide the city's building electrification support in a way that addresses community priorities and benefits all residents. The city will continue to engage the community on specific programs and policies under consideration, secure funding and resources to support our community, and promote existing programs, incentives, and tools through its collaboration with external partners, such as the Switches On campaign, BayREN, and the state's tech program. And with that, we'll move to the third topic today.
Okay, great. So tonight before you, we're gonna be talking about parking and transportation to management in San Jose. Over the last 3 years, we've been relooking at how we address parking in San Jose. This is the first time that we comprehensively have done this since the modern code was enacted on parking in 1965. This is a joint effort between planning and DOT. So in addition to myself, my co-presenter will be Wilson Tam from the Department of Transportation, Ramses Madhu also from Transportation, and then recently promoted division manager Martina Davis from Planning is also joining us this evening. What you're going to be hearing about tonight is not something for your approval. What we're seeking is your direction on our proposed approach, policy direction on parking and transportation demand management, and then we would bring, based on council direction, we'll bring an actual ordinance back to council in the fall for its consideration. So why are we doing this? So as you're well aware, and as part of the package today, we have a goal of becoming climate neutral by 2030. We also are desire, the desire is to further implement our general plan, and this is actually an action item in the general plan to explore eliminating parking in San Jose, parking requirements, excuse me, not parking. And then again, we have the Climate Smart San Jose plan, which we're also trying to aggressively drive that to our climate goals. In addition, I should note that this work was funded by the Climate Cities Climate Challenge, which is the goal of which is to focus on how cities can contribute to lessening impacts to climate change, focused on building and transportation. So I should also mention that the work tonight is part of a larger effort that DOT is leading to look at transportation and how it furthers our environmental, economic, and equity goals. And that includes the Move San Jose plan. All of these will be coming to you this fall. The Move San Jose plan, a transit first policy, an update to the VMT policy or a transportation analysis policy. They're also working on the downtown transportation plan as well as the West San Jose multimodal transportation improvement plans. There's a lot of stuff going on in the transportation realm to get us to our goals. So a little bit on the timeline. So we started this work back in January 2020. There was a planning commission study session as well as a city council study session. And the council's already enacted some policies, ordinances and policies in this regard to parking and TDM, most noticeably in the Diridon Station area, as well as the Berryessa BART Urban Village Plan, which is approved in June of 2021. So we're here before you tonight. We've already gone to Planning Commission, got some feedback for you, and we're seeking direction tonight. And again, as I said, we'd be coming back in the fall with the actual ordinance for your consideration. So I just want to note we've done extensive community outreach from a variety of stakeholders. And in total, we have 318 discrete San Joseans who have weighed in on the issue of parking. Parking is often a very hot topic, so we're not surprised we got a lot of interest. We did 2 study sessions, 17 focus groups, 9 webinars and workshops, and 3 developer roundtables. The outreach has started initially in person, but quickly moved to online given the pandemic. So I think as the council is well aware, the code that we have today, going back to 1965, requires that a given use provide a specified level of parking. And it's really planning for parking at these really peak moments in time that such as the Black Friday after Thanksgiving, when the spaces are going to be very, very utilized. But for most of the year, and for many uses all of the year, the parking is not fully utilized. So what's resulted is a lot of oversupply of parking in San Jose. So I think you're all aware of when you plan a city around driving, and you require lots and lots of parking. One, you're assuming that everybody's driving from point A to get to point B. And the result of all of these policy decisions made since the end of the Second World War is that we've created cities that are built around cars rather than people. I think this picture sums up how much of this portion of San Jose is built for the car. So why is this a problem? There's 4 sort of areas I'll cover. I'll start with climate, choice, and traffic. So studies show that abundance or oversupply of parking encourages people to drive, even when there are options to walking, riding transit, and biking. So the easier you make it to drive by providing parking, people are going to drive. They often do it unconsciously, even when they have other viable choices. What's really important about that, or what that really leads to, is the impact upon our climate and our contribution to greenhouse gases. So I think, as noted before, 51% of the city's GHG emissions come from transportation. So this is a really critical puzzle to tackle. The other issue with parking is that it can create business inflexibility. So the world we live in has really been changing even before the pandemic, and the pandemic has accelerated that. People are using ride hailing, shopping online, working from home. People are prioritizing experiences over things. So one of the challenges that businesses can find in San Jose is that they can't move into an existing space that works for them because the space does not have enough parking for their use per the zoning code. And so that's even if the amount of parking that they need to meet the needs of their customers and their employees is adequate. So again, the idea behind this is really to provide more flexibility for businesses so they can occupy spaces that have the parking that meets their needs without having to not be able to occupy a space or provide parking that they don't need. So the other sort of issue with oversupply of parking is related to land use and ecology. So I think parking is clearly not an appealing place. They're not really the places that most people would want to be. They're very great for parking cars. As a professor of mine in UC Berkeley, when I was in grad school, said, places with an abundance of parking are typically not the places that I would really like to be. They're not great, vibrant places. So when we plan for a lot of parking, we require a lot of parking, we create an abundance of parking. Again, it creates environments that furthers the cycle of driving and discourages walking and biking. You can see an example right here what an environment looks like where you put a lot of parking in, where the buildings are set back, the parking's in front, and even if you could walk or bike because you live close by, or you could take transit, does not look like an appealing environment to do those things. So another thing to really to note is that parking takes up a lot of space. So for every square foot, for example, of a restaurant, you need 8.3 square feet of dining area. And you can see along this graph here that that other than apartments, the amount of space for parking exceeds the actual primary use. And I should just note that space that we could use for other things, more housing, for amenities, more employment, open space, whatever. So the other issue is that oversupply or requiring an oversupply of parking can affect housing affordability. So parking is really expensive to build. It varies from $34,000 for a surface space to upwards of $75,000 for an underground space. That's a lot of money. And parking is actually not free. So the costs, even though they seem free, someone has to pay for them, and they show up. It does show up in our lives. So it results in higher rents, both for retail, housing, and office space. It can result in higher purchase prices for homes or other types of real estate products, and can contribute to more expensive goods and services. So at the end of the day, regulations tell a lot about our values and priorities. And today, with the code that we have that dates back to '65, empty housing for cars often takes precedence over housing for people. So I just want to note that removing mandatory parking requirements does not directly remove parking and does not mean parking will not build. We actually anticipate that developers will continue to build parking to meet the demand of their tenants and customers. Instead, it allows developers and businesses and residents to right-size their parking needs to meet their needs on that given site. So we have the proposal tonight that we want your direction on. The staff recommendation is to move forward with eliminating parking requirements citywide. This is really the simplest approach. It provides the most business flexibility, and we believe it will further our environmental goals than some of the alternatives. But we do have some alternatives for the council to consider. One is to eliminate parking minimums everywhere except the single-family neighborhoods or single-family zoning districts. And then alternative two is to eliminate parking minimums only in the general plans, planned growth areas, places like downtown, urban villages, North San Jose, and specific plans. I should note that the city does have contractual obligations for parking in the Diridon area, so there are some minimum requirements that we're proposing to retain for commercial development around the Diridon station. This really, I understand, sounds like a bold move for many, but I just want to make it very clear that we are not on the cutting edge here. Actually, there's a number of communities throughout the United States, actually throughout North America, that either have completely eliminated parking requirements or have eliminated them in certain portions of the city, such as in their urban villages or main streets or transit-oriented areas or their downtowns. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Wilson, who's going to continue.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Council and public members. This is Wilson Tam, Transportation Planning Manager at the Department of Transportation. What is presented in front of you right now is the second half of the staff recommendation on the parking and TDM ordinance update, and that is the TDM strategies. As Michael presented, ample parking spaces and ample free parking definitely encourage people to drive. But right-sizing parking alone is not enough to encourage people to consider other transportation options to get to their destinations. As Michael presented, we have reached out to more than 1,300 public members to talk about this policy. And one of the major feedback that we have gotten is that people found it very hard to not consider to drive. And the primary factor of that is because there's no viable way to get around, especially to destinations that are within walking and biking distances, destinations that are near transit routes, and destinations such as major transportation or major destinations such as universities, shopping centers, and other major destinations that people can consider to carpool together to. So that's where the TDM come into play. TDM stands for Transportation Demand Management, and this is actually a set of strategies that could incentivize people to consider other ways to get around. Examples of TDM measures include bus stop improvements, safe crossings, pedestrian lighting, wayfinding, subsidized transit passes, affordable housing near jobs through mixed-use development, things of that nature. And so TDM and parking, as you can see, go hand in hand together. So, so we wonder, like, we do have TDM requirements in the city today. And so we ask ourselves, why would people think that there's no viable way to get around when we already have TDM policies in place today? So we take a step back and look at our existing processes, wondering what is our existing TDM process looking like. So this is the three-step process just to summarize how TDM works today according to today's policy. So today, TDM requirements are triggered by various policy requirements. One of which is actually that like TDM is tied to the parking minimum. So whenever a development decides to reduce the parking below the minimum, they would be required to provide additional TDM requirements to offset that parking reduction. Other requirements include the CEQA reviews. We have transportation impacts under CEQA, as well as the air quality impacts under CEQA that would also trigger the need to provide TDM requirements. And normally what it works today is that whenever an impacts are identified during the development reviews, the city staff would provide some guidance as to how to address those impacts. However, the metrics today for these policy requirements are pretty vague. It's not very clear, and it's very complicated. And so one of the feedback that we have gotten from the development roundtables is that like there's so many different requirements, whether it's for CEQA transportation or CEQA air quality or parking minimum, and there's no guidance as to how to define how to mitigate these impacts. And therefore, it requires a lengthy process, some of which may require a transportation consultant to be on the table just to explain how it works according to the city's policy. And it adds time, it adds budget, and it adds cost to the development. And therefore, at the end of the day, it may require some negotiation with city staff, which eventually may not result in the TDM measures being implemented effectively to the future tenants of the new buildings. And therefore, people don't feel that they have viable options to travel around. And unfortunately, traffic and parking demands go up, and it creates the chicken and the egg problem that people don't feel enjoyable and safe doing the other transportation options. And so, so there's a lot of opportunity for us to think about how we can modify this TDM policy. So how would the proposed TDM work? So after going through the lengthy community engagement and engaging with the development roundtables, we come up with three major ways of modifying the TDM requirements. First is to decouple the TDM requirements from parking reduction and require TDM for all larger projects, as well as consolidating the requirements with CEQA. So basically, we have all various policy triggers. We bring them all together and consolidate the ways to address these impacts. We would create a clear approach to standardizing TDM plans so that developers may not need to hire a transportation consultant to really like go through that lengthy analysis and figuring out what are the appropriate TDM requirements. And last but not least is to streamline the process with a standard manual of TDM options and a preset TDM point target that can create predictable outcomes. This is very something that other peer cities have done, such as San Francisco, Sunnyvale, and also other cities in the country have started moving towards this kind of like point-based system to providing more predictable outcomes for development. And this is a good synopsis of like what would be our standardized menu of options look like. There are 4 categories. Based on research, we found that there are 30 measures under these 4 categories would be very effective in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, VMT, and improving the transportation options for the new tenants of the new buildings. And not trying to go through all the measures here, but you can see that like land use is actually one of the very important categories here. We include a measure about how to incentivize more affordable housing above and beyond the inclusionary housing owners requirement in order to address these TDM requirements. We have street infrastructure, parking, and programmatic related measures as well. So this is the process of how the new TDM process looks like. First, the city staff would provide this standardized menu of TDM options to the development to choose. And each of these measures have a varying amount of points, if you will. And what that does is that a development, once receiving the menu of options, they would go through the check the box, the type of exercise. They would select the number of TDM measures on the menu that could help them fulfill the point target. And so it's going to be very transparent and clear. And whatever the measures selected by the development, we will ensure that these measures will be provided to the future tenants of the new buildings once they occupy the new buildings. And so there will be also ongoing monitoring and compliance program created by the city to ensure that these measures will be provided on an ongoing basis. Some of the measures are a one-time construction, such as like building bus stop improvements. So this type of infrastructure improvement may not require this ongoing monitoring process, but things such as like providing subsidized transit passes is an ongoing process, and we may need a monitoring program to monitor the progress of that. So what does that mean in terms of the development? So we have 2 scenarios presented to you right now. So first, what if a development chooses to build less parking? Then that means there would be more space to build other things, and the developers would receive more TDM points because parking is one of the TDM measures in the menu to choose. And so that would result in fewer remaining point requirements for the TDM. On the other hand, if a development chooses to build more parking, they are allowed to do so per this policy update, and they would have more, sorry, I forgot to move on to the next slide. They would meet the TDM target via other options in the menu to compensate for the increase in traffic generated by the parking. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael to go through some of the common questions that we have received from the study session that happened last August, as well as the other community engagement that we have done so far.
Yeah, so I think I kind of covered this already, but one of the questions we heard is how would it affect housing affordability? So as I said before, parking is a significant cost in construction of a housing project, and as you know, construction costs have gone through the roof. So we do see this as an opportunity in some situations to actually lower the cost, making projects feasible to move forward, and we anticipate that some of those costs would be passed on, that savings would be passed on to renters and home buyers in terms of a lower rent or purchase price. So how will these changes affect small business? So again, I covered this already, but it would give businesses more options to move into different types of existing buildings. We've seen cases with
Can you please speak more into the mic?
Sure, sorry. So we've seen cases where businesses, industrial uses, restaurants, and things like that cannot move into existing buildings because the site does not have enough existing parking. So provide more flexibility also for developing on a smaller lot. And I should note that the small projects we're proposing to be exempt from the TDM requirement, so that this would not apply to smaller businesses or projects. And how would these changes affect existing neighborhoods? If so, how? So what we're anticipating is that again, so just a reminder that developers are financed and there's the money that finances the project are going to have, what we find is that requires that they build enough parking to meet the demand of the intended user. So we're not anticipating that developers are not going to build parking. I think it's really about right sizing the parking for a given location. We've heard a lot about the overcrowding. A lot of the overcrowding that we've seen is in buildings that were built, apartments built in the 50s and 60s. And this really is an existing condition. In some extent, it has to do with the housing crisis and unaffordability for people finding places to live. So there are, I think this is something we do need to continue to dig into. I think there are approaches that we can use moving forward. I think just to note, the RPP, the residential permit parking could be a tool. I know that's in one of the memos that came out today under Councilmember Mahan. I think the other thing we want to note is that the TDMs that are proposed to be included would provide new options for people in these neighborhoods and new enhancements, so they could potentially get around better on other modes besides driving. And that these measures would incentivize people in some of these neighborhoods to get around in that way. So I just want to acknowledge that we did hear a lot about overcrowding in some of these older apartment communities. Has equity been considered as part of the process? So as part of this, the outreach and engagement process over the last 2 years, we partnered with Vegelution to engage with underserved neighborhoods. We held focus groups, and we heard from them and got recommendations. We also partnered with Luna, Latinos United for a New America, to meet with communities to identify TDM measures that would provide their community from their perspective on the most benefit. And those are measures that we plan to carry forward. And with council direction, we would propose to include in the menu of options for developers. We also plan to incentivize adoption of these TDM measures, so it wouldn't just be that they're there, or that we're planning to come up with incentives so the developers would be more inclined to pick them as well. So what is the implications of new TDM requirements on the cost to develop a project? So overall, TDM measures we have found are about 10% of the cost of building parking. That being said, we understand that cost of development is a significant issue for all types of development. Our intent is not to make projects infeasible. So working with the cost of development survey that the Office of Economic Development is doing, we intend to right-size the TDM requirements relative to the project to ensure that the benefits that we seek to meet our climate and other goals are met while still ensuring that that they do not impact the feasibility of the project and do not add significantly to the cost. So that's work that's forthcoming. So we did hold a planning commission where the planning commission gave us feedback, or gave the council feedback on its perspective on our staff proposal. So I would say overall, the planning commission was generally supportive of what we're proposing. Some of the things we did here, however, was recommended additional outreach to lower income communities prior to coming back to council in the fall. Just a note that we need to continue to make improvements for bike, ped, and related to transit. That's a real issue. I know that the city's working on that, or DOT on Vision Zero. There was really concerns expressed about impacts to those that have no choice but to drive. There was strong support for a citywide adoption, but there was also some voices that recommended a more incremental approach. There was a few commissioners that really preferred or expressed a desire not to eliminate parking in single-family neighborhoods. So I guess, should I close it out? I'll close it out. So again, staff recommendation is to move forward with an ordinance in the fall to eliminate a mandatory parking minimum citywide, and develop a TDM program and TDM requirements citywide as well as an ongoing monitoring and compliance program. So I just want to kind of wrap up all of these things. And the city has made a strong commitment to combat climate change. We have a goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2030. This parking and TDM is a significant piece of that. It's not the only piece, but it is. We see it as a significant piece of reaching that goal. And we really just want to note, we can't continue the status quo in the transportation sector like we have been over the last 70, 80 years. We really need to move the needle here. And eliminating mandatory minimum parking requirements and requiring TDM measures is a bold step that we need to further our environmental goals. And that's it. So we'll open it up for questions and public comment.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, everyone. Let's go to public comment first, and then we'll come back to the council. Thank you.
We have 4 in-person speakers. I'm going to call your name. Just make your way down to the microphone. Whoever comes first can speak. Just introduce yourself. I have Glenn Garfunkel, Susan Butler, Linda Hutchins Knowles, and Rabbi Obanor.
Hi, Mayor Liccardo, council members, thank you for your time. My name is Robbie Abenor, and I'm a transportation strategist with the Natural Resources Defense Council. I'm here to speak in strong support of these 3 items, which will speed up the city's action on climate and tackle the 2 biggest causes of climate change inducing pollution, buildings and transportation. San Jose has declared a climate emergency and set the ambitious and laudable goal of carbon neutrality by 2030. Now is the time to act, and the Carbon Neutral Acceleration Framework is the next step to meet that goal. With just 8 years to go, there's no time to waste to pass, fund, and implement it. Item 10.3 presents a proven way to reduce traffic and pollution. As your staff highlighted, cities across America have adopted similar policies to cut emissions and make new homes more affordable. We urge you to adopt the staff recommendation and make the policy as strong and as effective as possible. Finally, the Electrify San Jose framework will help people move to clean electricity in a way that is thoughtful and supportive for residents, especially folks in historically underserved neighborhoods. Today, amid a drought, a hot summer, and an early fire season, you have the opportunity to tackle climate change with proven solutions. Please support the staff recommendations and approve these items. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Susan Butler Graham. I'm with Mothers Out Front, Silicon Valley. I'm speaking as a San Jose resident, a mother, and a grandmother. Mothers Out Front is a national movement of mothers and allies who are mobilizing to preserve a livable climate for all children. We have over 35,000 supporters nationwide, more than 2,000 of whom live in Santa Clara County. We are extremely concerned about what our children's future will look like. This year, our team has been collecting these postcards, signed by local residents, most from San Jose, who are also concerned about our climate future and who support the existing building electrification framework. The postcard reads, "Dear council member or mayor, please prioritize healthy homes in a stable climate by electrifying buildings and transportation. Approve the existing buildings electrification plan. Sunset the exemption for gas-powered fuel cells. Upgrade the EV charging reach code for multifamily housing to 95% EV ready, 5% EVSE. Most people have signed the physical postcard, and others have signed an online petition. Here they are. At last count, there were 200 postcards. 10 of them haven't been handed in yet, so there's 190 in this pile. Your residents want you to vote for this framework. We also want you to approve the pathway to carbon neutrality by 2030, which looks really awesome. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Garfunkel. I'm with San Jose Community Energy Advocates. Concerning electrification, even without mandates, there's a great deal the city can and should do to facilitate a shift away from fossil fuels and toward electrification. Workforce development and contractor training for heat pump installations is urgently needed, as is reliable home and energy retrofit guidance and informational resources for the community. Several percent of existing heating and hot water systems are replaced every year due to aging. This is low-hanging fruit that can be harvested without mandates. By coordinating the needed services, the framework can greatly facilitate electrification of this and other portions of existing buildings. Climate change is real. The consequences are very serious. Local government and individuals need to do the right thing. The issue is unlike any other that local government faces. Responsible officials and citizens cannot ignore this, and we cannot wait for federal policy to catch up. The proposed framework is a modest effort to get the ball rolling in the right direction. Though the cost can vary case to case, to quibble in those cases that have only small budgetary impact in the near term is to miss the significance of the threat we face and the much higher cost, long-term cost of inaction. With relatively small sacrifice, the city can make significant inroads to reducing its carbon footprint. Yes, some of your constituents may object, but we must lead by example. We must do the right thing in the short term to benefit long term. Please support the existing building electrification framework.
Hello, council members, Mayor Liccardo. My name is Linda Hutchins-Knowles, and I am a resident of San Jose. I serve as a senior manager for Actera's Carl Knapp Go EV program. I'm also the mother of 2 teens and the co-founder of Mothers Out Front Silicon Valley. With all of these hats, I'm here today to urge you to please approve items 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. Each is very important for achieving San Jose's climate smart goals. With my Actera hat on, I want to speak to the importance of electrifying buildings and transportation. Since these 2 sectors together are responsible for more than half of our GHG emissions, it's vital that the city take a proactive role in educating and supporting residents and businesses to replace their old gas appliances with clean electric alternatives. In order to accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles and make them accessible to all residents, it will be essential for San Jose to update our REACH code ordinance to ensure that EV-ready charging is available for every new resident of an apartment or condo, or every resident of a new apartment or condo. In the meantime, moving to reduce or eliminate parking minimums will encourage residents to mode shift from reliance on old cars and gas-powered cars to other modes of clean transportation. With my Mothers Out Front hat, I want to direct your attention to the audience where all these posters are. We had a lot of folks here earlier today. We didn't know how long this item would last. My daughter drew this one, and we just want to show you that a lot of kids and a lot of parents are very energized and encouraged with what staff has proposed today. We hope you will support it. We really want you to seize the opportunity to actually achieve carbon neutrality by 2030. And this means prioritizing greenhouse gas emission reductions in every policy and program. Since gas-powered fuel cells generate enormous amounts of climate-destabilizing emissions, particularly methane, it's time for the city to soon sunset the misguided exemption that allows facilities to install gas-powered fuel cells, which are hooked up to the natural gas pipeline. Instead, the city should require these facilities to use other forms of secure backup power, such as solar with battery storage or diesel generators. If only used during power shutoffs, the emissions, oh wow. Okay, so please sunset that exemption and support these policies. Our children are counting on you. Thank you.
We'll go online. First speaker is Crystal.
Hello. Greetings, council members. My name is Crystal Hernandez. Excuse me. I'm a San Mateo County resident, a mom of 2, an environmental studies major, and a volunteer for Actera. I support your efforts to create a comprehensive plan to tackle climate change. As part of that plan, I urge you to include all electric, existing buildings, and EV infrastructure REACH codes. I grew up in a low-income community in Daly City and later in San Francisco with gas appliances and low health standards, so I understand firsthand the health and well-being impacts of inequitable living situations. The council should move toward adopting a single all-electric standard for all building types because all-electric buildings are cheaper to build and operate, better for public health, and critical to protect us from a climate crisis. Electrifying new multifamily homes also provides equity for low-income individuals. Therefore, creating an exemption for affordable housing units could have unintended negative impacts. Forcing people to live in gas power units exposes them to higher levels of indoor air pollution during emergencies. It takes longer to get power back on to gas homes as opposed to electric homes. And most importantly, as the price of renewable energy continues to drop, fossil fuels will become more expensive. So it's so important to make sure all homes are covered under this plan. Providing equal access to EV charging is key to ensuring EV adoption. Currently, the vast majority of EV drivers live in single-family housing and enjoy access to convenient, reliable, and cheap charging at home. So with 40% of residents in the city being renters, the lack of access to charging becomes a major barrier to accessing the EV market, even as the upfront cost of EVs are now getting on par with gasoline cars. So lastly, as our state suffers from wildfires, which undeniably impact health.
Erica Pinto.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Erica Pinto, San Jose Planning Policy Manager with SPUR. I'm joining my other coalition members in speaking on the parking and TDM agenda item. We truly appreciate the work done by city staff to engage the community, evaluate options, and propose strong actions to address the impacts of mandatory parking in San Jose. The item before you today has the potential to address longstanding policy issues related to parking minimum requirements that curtail San Jose's goal to make housing more affordable, build density, and support public transit, and advance the city as an environmental leader. The fact is that parking mandates force builders to construct costly garages before putting up apartments. This requirement is especially burdensome in dense neighborhoods where underground garages can cost over $75,000 a space. Almost everywhere, however, it results in fewer and more expensive housing, compounding our affordability crisis. Parking requirements also push destinations apart, creating neighborhoods built around driving, which increases congestion, emissions, and air pollution. These same neighborhoods discourage walking and transit use. Parking requirements explain why we have so many strip malls and surface lots, so few walkable streets, and so little transit ridership despite our massive transit investments. We believe that the recommendations put forth by city staff today take a much needed step to ensure that parking policy aligns with what most people want, which is more and cheaper housing, less driving and traffic congestion, and walkable neighborhoods with good mass transit. And importantly, revisions of transportation demand management requirements and enforcement, like unbundling parking, will go far to equitably and sustainably meet the mobility needs of San Jose residents. Thank you for your time as you consider this critical next step.
Teresa?
Hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you for discussing this issue. I work as an intern at Actera, a Bay Area nonprofit, and I hope your council will pass both the existing buildings electrification framework and the acceleration strategy so we can put San Jose firmly on a path to achieve the carbon neutrality by 2030 goal and ensure a sustainable future. Climate change has harmed all aspects of life, including health, poverty, demography, inequity, and even global conflict, and I really don't want to see this crisis get worse than it already has. California's terrifying wildfires and yearly droughts are not sustainable, not for myself or my family or my community. I want to be able to focus on my goals without these constant safety threats. My friends and I are worried more and more each day about the climate crisis. So we need to do everything we can to adapt our living situations and ensure ourselves a safe future. There's no time to wait. And the Electrify San Jose framework and 2030 roadmap will help us reduce these greenhouse gas emissions. I'd love to see more of San Jose becoming electrified and decarbonized, and you can encourage that through this framework. I'd feel safer knowing that electric appliances don't emit carbon monoxide in buildings I go into. And I'm glad you're addressing electric vehicles because our fossil fuel powered vehicles majorly contribute to the climate crisis. I'm glad San Jose already has such ambitious goals. And I encourage the council to keep considering ways to increase the use of clean energy. So I hope you will vote to accept the existing buildings electrification framework and the climate smart carbon neutral by 2030 strategy. Thank you for your time.
Roma? Roma, I can see that you've unmuted, but we don't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great, thank you. Apologies. I'm Roma Dawson. I live in District 1 on a very busy street. I'm adjacent to a large number of apartments, most of which are rent controlled. I live next to Anderson School, which has students in the something like over 80% that qualify for free lunches. Parking is a challenge I face literally every day of my life. My husband and I plan trips around when off-street parking is going to become available. It may surprise you that I'm here to tell you that I don't think staff is moving aggressively enough. I'm asking you to direct staff to draft a very aggressive new parking ordinance that removes mandatory parking minimums and updates our antiquated TDM requirements, because I believe that's the only way to solve situations like mine. It wasn't an easy decision I reached, but quite frankly, I don't know how I could live with myself if I did otherwise. We all have to do everything we can to save the planet, and I thank this mayor and council and city staff. You make me proud to live in San Jose for the work you're doing to save the planet. And of course, the data on affordable housing is irrefutable. We simply cannot build what we need if we keep these ridiculous parking requirements in place. So again, I urge you, be aggressive, be forward thinking, think about the children in our future. And again, congratulations on surviving a budget year, and you all did a great job today. Thank you.
Karen?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Karen Rosenberg from Greenbelt Alliance. San Jose has ambitious climate and housing goals that cannot be met without addressing parking minimums. I would like to urge you to support the staff recommendation to prepare a parking reform ordinance that removes mandatory minimum parking limits, updates the city's TDM requirements, and develops a program for ongoing monitoring and compliance. In Pillar 2 of Climate Smart San Jose, which you approved, are policies and actions to reduce 1,319,000 tons of carbon per year and VMT per capita per day reduced by 57% by 2050. This cannot happen without significant changes to parking minimums. Additionally, staff has identified approximately 80 general plan policies that removal of mandatory parking minimums and expansion of the TDM program would advance. I know many of you are concerned about overcrowding. I want to emphasize that this policy does not advocate to get rid of existing parking. Furthermore, let's face it, San Jose's minimum parking regulations haven't succeeded in preventing overcrowded curb parking in many San Jose neighborhoods like in East San Jose. This policy has a chance to build more affordable housing to address both the climate and housing crises, and I urge you to adopt staff recommendations, not an alternative. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Maya?
Hi, I'm Maya, and I'm a Bay Area high school student, and I wanted to take a moment to express my support for the Climate Action Plan and its push for electrification, which is a crucial step to reducing emissions. I first became aware of electrification this past year as I joined youth-led groups to advocate for swift and effective action, and I've learned just how important that is, particularly in the Bay Area where we act as trailblazers and set the precedent for the rest of the state and the country as a whole. Growing up with asthma, I became accustomed to wearing a mask to school long before COVID even existed due to the thick smoke we've seen nearly every year in the dry season from nearby forest fires. I've heard constant talk on the radios and TV about how much things need to change, and I felt an overwhelming desire from my community and my peers to do better. Thus, I think the effort to decrease gas emissions from houses, currently around 20% of emissions in San Jose, through more incentives and awareness as the framework supports, is much needed. Not only are these efforts better for 1, the environment, 2, public health, and 3, cost saving, but they tap into a community of people who want ways to improve these 3 things, given the access. And these impacts are not insignificant because, like was said, electrification can reduce emissions in homes by up to 90% in coming years. And similarly, electrification solves for the long-term problems of high gas prices because while the cost of electric appliances is projected to continue declining, the cost of maintaining current US aging gas infrastructure is increasing each year. For cleaner air, more affordable home costs, and better future for our area and the globe, I urge this council to move forward to this better future by voting yes today on the electrification framework. Thank you for your time.
Emily?
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo and council members. My name is Emily Schwing. I'm the Public Affairs Director for Veggolution and part of the Citywide Collective. I would like to share some thoughts about the electrification acceleration proposal, which, as others have mentioned, is just one part of a larger long-term community climate resilience strategy. By now, we are all or should be familiar with the term redlining. Those of us living and working in East San Jose certainly are. I would like to share the term greenlining as well as a recommendation from a powerful community organization founded in 1993 and based in Oakland that shares the same name. Organizations including Greenlining have studied the challenges and opportunities that build electrification presents for low-income communities, 70% of whom are renters caught up in a housing and emergent energy affordable crisis. And to set some context, greenlining efforts began in the 1980s, and I quote from their website. This framework is not new, and now it finds that electrification can be a transformative force for low-income residents, and it explains the steps that we must take to ensure that electrification helps close the clean energy gap in California to provide relief to our residents facing energy insecurity in the current system. Meanwhile, the cost of safely maintaining California's gas system is set to escalate dramatically in coming years as increasing infrastructure costs and safety upgrades combine with the decline in demand as the state transitions away from fossil fuels to hit its climate targets. Veggolution and the Citywide Collective are committed to supporting electrification initiatives and the community outreach that is required to support this shift to clean energy and reducing barriers to adoption, whether in a home, a small business, or a restaurant setting. Thank you for your time.
Adina?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members and staff. Adina Levin, Executive Director with Friends of Caltrain. I wanted to really commend the city of San Jose for bringing forward this proposal to right-size parking, and along with that to strengthen transportation demand management to really rebalance the incentives for people and the opportunities for people to use sustainable transportation and more shift towards a sustainable transportation and less toward the driving where people have opportunities. This really addresses the city's climate goals as well as the city's goals for housing affordability and economic development. I think it's good to see that the transportation demand management policy is slated to continue to evolve over time, given that there are transportation improvements like bringing BART to San Jose, as well as policy improvements such as an all-agency transit pass, so that which is getting piloted starting this summer. And if that has a broader rollout, we'll have the opportunity to give people much greater public transportation mobility. So we'll really encourage the city to move forward with the ending the parking minimums and strengthening the transportation demand management. Thank you.
Okay, we have an in-person speaker, so we'll move to Paul next.
Okay. Just wanted to say quickly that the reduction of parking does not necessarily translate into pollution reduction if parking is allocated for electric vehicles. So I'm not sure that these proposals are taking into consideration the future mandates we have of electrification of all personal vehicles. And if that's the future, I think buildings should be designed for those vehicles and not be eliminating potential parking for them.
Thank you. We'll go back online. Mikhail.
Yes, hi. My name is Mikhail Kharilov. I am a longtime San Jose resident, and I am a volunteer with the Silicon Valley Bike Coalition. And I'm calling to voice my strong support for the climate smart San Jose initiatives, and particularly the removal of a minimum parking requirement. So when I moved to San Jose first back in 2007, I was renting a little cute apartment in around Japantown area. But I was taken aback by the high cost which I had to pay for my rent. Now, little did I realize that a big chunk of that rent was going to the quote-unquote free parking spot, which I was getting, even though I didn't necessarily need to use the car because I'm a bulk commuter. Not only that, I was also sponsoring my neighbors who had more than one car. And the same thing, I was sponsoring all these extra parking lots and the high number of homeless people as well, who often cannot afford housing because of this consideration. A couple of years later, I bought a house, and that parking stopped being free. I spent more than $20,000 on building a garage and driveway to it. But my neighbors did not do the same thing, and they continued using the free parking on the street. So from instead of my rent, now I ended up sponsoring them from my taxpayer money. And it was basically instead of my taxpayer money going to the parking, to the bike lanes, they were going to sponsoring my neighbors, driving more and effectively contributing to the pollution. So in conclusion, I would like to support elimination of a minimum parking requirement. And thank you for your attention.
Marissa. Marissa Gasca. Okay, moving on. Blair.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. There's a lot of public speakers tonight on this item. It's nice. Thank you. You know, I hope that we're knowing that we want to, you know, these sort of issues, you know, bicycle and pedestrian planning and long-term social planning with these sort of ideas. We've been doing all this stuff for a number of years, and we have not had to be considering natural disaster preparedness. We haven't been having to consider, you know, man-made preparedness disaster issues like COVID or 9/11. We've been just trucking along, just doing really important good work, and I hope that can be a hopeful reminder in what this work is about. We don't need to create shock doctrine practices with this work. I mean, this is really fun, enjoyable, sustainable good work, and it's nice we're all doing our efforts right now. I think we have some really difficult questions about the future of what exactly is our carbon-free and carbon-neutral society. Does that mean nuclear, or does that mean, you know, we work with ideas of renewables that will take on the ideas of some use of fossil fuel? I mean, those are difficult questions we have to really ask. I hope we can be open to the future of that debate at this time. It's important I think we make these things aware to each other. And to conclude that, the idea of, for all the electric grid needs we're going to have, you know, there's a lot of mineral use involved. And for as important as working towards our carbon-free future, we have to really be considering the worker rights issues of the people who mine these minerals that will be feeding our electric storage future. These things need to work hand in hand. As we build this electric future, we have to think of the worker rights issues involved just as much and work just as hard towards these good things. There's a lot of things I want to talk about on this item. Thanks for having this item.
Thank you. I want to thank all the members of our community for taking the time to advocate. I know we've got several more to go, and it appears the list isn't shortening any. I'm a little concerned about our ability to hang on to a quorum because we've lost a couple of council members already because of various issues. So I'm going to ask at 7:30, we're going to go to 1 minute just to ensure that we can hang on to our council so we can get to a vote. Thank you for everyone for your patience.
Brian?
I'm going to give my 1 minute. Thank you, Mayor, everybody. When I first saw this, I was so angry, and I went into my typical Brian rant. So I drove around, which is sort of I got a hybrid car now, and I'm actually sort of ashamed of myself now because I was totally against this until after the report. And you all make a lot of sense. So I encourage you to step forward with it. Thank you. I yield all my time back.
Ryan?
Good evening. I'll keep it quick. Please remove parking minimums citywide. This is an urgent climate issue as well as a transportation issue. And I'll just echo the great presentation that staff did that apparently is already changing minds, as well as some previous speakers. Thank you.
Gwen?
Yes, hello. Good evening, Council members and the mayor, and thank you to the staff for the awesome presentations. I'm Gwen Azar. I just graduated from Cupertino High School. I'm also here representing Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action. As a young person who has no choice but to think of the future as very current and pressing, I just want to join the abundance of others in this call in my strong support for these frameworks. Action that really our area and the world needs if we want to even hope to prevent the most catastrophic consequences of climate change. What will be far more expensive in the long run is inaction. So I commend the city for taking leadership on climate action in this area. Action like this really gives me hope, though there's always need for more robust and aggressive change. So thank you for your time.
And we'll switch over to the 1 minute timer.
Okay, we'll proceed with 1 minute. Thank you.
Tim, you will be next.
Honorable Mayor and Council members, my name is Tim Wee. I run zerow.org. We have a climate emergency and we're moving far too slowly to avoid climate disasters. Thank you for holding a hybrid meeting so we can speak at this meeting in a climate-friendly as well as COVID-safe way. Please approve staff's recommendation for items 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. My household achieved carbon neutrality 3 years ago. My residence is fully electric and fully solar, generating more electricity than it uses. My regular transportation is by bicycle and EV. My water use is greatly reduced. My solid waste trash is down just to a quart a week. Bicycling is super efficient, saves money, increases health. And since you need to get exercise anyway, that is free energy for you getting wherever you need to go. Every time you push a fossil fueled gas pedal, you are essentially crushing the skull of some poor kid under your foot. Let's all work together to make our world the Garden of Eden it needs to be for our kids to survive and thrive. Thank you for making San Jose a climate leader. Thank you.
Michael?
Hi, my name is Michael Hazelton. I live in downtown San Jose, and I'm here to just kind of urge you to support the staff recommendations to, reform the mandatory minimum parking limits, to remove those and to update the transportation demand requirements as they kind of outlined. One of the things I just wanted to mention real fast is I really like the area of downtown where First Street is. It's got the historic buildings and the jacaranda trees and the light rail and everything. And I think a lot of people like areas like this. And under the current policies, developing such a place is pretty much illegal. And so, if we kind of implement these updates, we'll allow small developers to come in and kind of replicate the areas of San Jose that are sort of the nicest, in my opinion. So anyways, yeah, just please make the right call. Thanks.
Wandering? I see that you... Go ahead.
Hello, public comment time. Okay. Hi, my name is Pragya Natarajan, and I'm a rising senior at Cupertino High School, who's also a resident of San Jose, and I'm here with the San Jose Youth Climate Action Team. We all know what climate change is and why it's bad. However, it takes personal experience to truly understand the impact of climate change. I had breathing problems when I was younger and needed an inhaler, but for a while I eventually grew out of it. However, as the years have gotten hotter, it's gotten harder and harder to breathe outside. I can no longer run in temperatures higher than 80 degrees without needing an inhaler now, and California reaches 80 degrees really easily. The The heat has impacted my breathing a lot, and I struggled to play tennis, run.
Chloe?
Hello, my name is Chloe Kwan. I'm 18 years old and I'm a part of Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action. I'm here today to express my strong support for items 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. Last year, you, the City Council, passed a radical and necessary resolution to be carbon neutral by 2030. These items are critical to following through with that promise and creating concrete, actionable plans to achieve our goals. As a young student, I want to remind you that we are becoming increasingly disillusioned with those in power who are failing to enforce strong climate action. I urge you to follow through where many larger scale leaders are stopping short. San Jose has the resources, the influence, and responsibility to meet its climate goals and lead the charge in our Bay Area community. I live in Santa Clara, where the proposed carbon neutrality goal is 2045. I want San Jose to show that we can do better and we need to do better. Thank you.
Ruth?
The Coozerwood Neighborhood Association is asking the City Council to oppose any changes to the city's minimum parking standards. On December 14th, 21, the council removed all objective standards for affordable housing in approved and unapproved urban villages and mixed-use commercial land as small as 1.5 acres. The objective now is to eliminate the standards in single-family neighborhoods to increase density, congestion, and discomfort for a lifestyle that no longer fits the agenda of the city administration and staff. The letters from the public were all from Catalyze SB, but there was one that was very interesting because it stood out and painted the alternative of what exists. Thank you for your time.
Ali?
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo and council members. My name is Ali Saferman, and I'm here on behalf of the Housing Action Coalition and as a San Jose resident to speak in strong support of the staff recommendation to prepare a parking reform ordinance that removes mandatory minimum parking limits, updates the city's TDM requirements, and develops a program for ongoing monitoring and compliance. Across our state, more than 97% of cities and counties have been unable to produce affordable housing. If we are going to take our state's housing crisis seriously, we need to use every possible tool to build more housing. Thank you to the council and city staff for your tireless efforts to ensure positive and sustainable climate and housing outcomes for our communities. Please support the staff's preferred recommendation to eliminate parking minimums citywide. Thank you so much.
Giovanni?
Hi, thank you, Mayor and Council. The name Electrify San Jose doesn't sound safe. The electrification plan makes the electrical grid hotter and more vulnerable to blackouts. It makes the electricity bill higher, making it harder to pay the bills and save money for the middle to low income people, including my Black and brown communities. It takes work away from our local piping trade workers, including union workers that would normally be involved with new construction. This plan prevents them from this work. When 5 or more people have to live together to afford the rent, it makes them more vulnerable to a blackout when they all use the electricity after a long day at work. The carbon neutral San Jose by 2030 acceleration strategy, I think this plan is unfair to the middle to lower income people. All of the damage done to the planet. Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna skip ahead to, it makes it harder for disabled people and handicapped people to park. That's all I got. Thank you.
Lalo?
Good evening, council members. Mayor, my name is Lalo Mendez. I'm the development project specialist for Catalyze SD. However, I'm speaking tonight on my own personal behalf. I am here to urge you to support the staff's recommendation to update San Jose's parking policies and TDM measures. We heard a lot about parking tonight, and what's really important to me are the TDM measures, because I grew up as the son of an immigrant mom, and when we were in the United States, when we first arrived, we couldn't afford a car. But you know what was a lifeline for our economic development as a family? Paying a quarter to be able to access the bus every weekend so I could get to my job, so I could get to community college. So I urge you tonight to consider the staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Jenny?
My name is Jenny Green. I'm a San Jose resident, a mother of 2 daughters, and a member of Mothers Out Front, Silicon Valley. Please vote yes on the climate-saving measures we're considering tonight. Some council members have expressed reservations about how much this might cost. I'm asking you as a mother, please do what it takes to win this fight. For our children's sakes, we have to stop greenhouse gas emissions. If you're concerned about cost, I'm hoping to hear you say you'll find solutions, because that is what leaders do when their community is facing an existential threat. We are counting on you. Thank you.
Zachary?
Hello and good evening. My name is Zachary Meyer. I'm a college student, a summer intern at Menlo Spark, and to steal a phrase from Sarah Ray, I am also a member of the climate generation. The generation of young people who have grown up knowing nothing but a world with the existential threat of climate change. I've grown up passionate with a desire to make an impact. However, I know I cannot do much on my own to save my generation, but a collective effort combined with smart and progressive policy change will. That's why I'm here today to ask the City of San Jose to approve items 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. Thank you.
Bruce? Bruce? Okay, moving on. Alexander?
Hello, Mayor and City staff and City Council. My name is Alex Melendrez. I am the South Bay Organizing Manager for YIMBY Action. I'm not really sure if there's much more to say given the outpouring of support for the staff recommendations for changes to parking minimums. It's clear that there is a wide coalition that really see this as an equity, climate, and from my perspective, a housing concern. I urge you to go forward with what the city staff is recommending. I also think it's a very forward-thinking policy that will also help the city in addressing its housing element needs later down the line. At the end of the day, we're really looking to house human beings rather than a car. And this policy really helps put roofs over heads. So thank you very much.
Saman?
Hi, Council. My name is Saman De Silva. I am a high school student from Palo Alto and the leader of youth environmental groups across the South Bay. I would like to express my support for items 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. As a young environmentalist, the existing building electrification framework speaks straight to my priorities: environmental justice, emissions reductions, and community-approved movement. Seeing a city of such scale as San Jose engaging in equitable electrification sets great precedent for other cities across the Bay and otherwise to follow an equity-based approach to electrification. In the framework, several cities are cited in their use of BPSs, MESSers, etc. I see the possibility for San Jose's name to appear on the dockets of other cities' frameworks as they aspire to take such strong consideration for equity in their climate plans. Understand that a vote in the interest of aggressive climate policy, a vote in the interest of increasing living standards for historically disenfranchised communities, and a vote in the interest of building a
Wyann? Wyann?
I am Wyann Trung with Mothers Out Front. Please vote yes on items 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. It's expensive for a restaurant owner to replace a gas stove with an electric one, but it's even more expensive to replace a restaurant that is burned to the ground, like the over 5,600 businesses and residents in Santa Rosa where I used to live. The cost of fossil gas will only rise as fracked gas, offshore and Arctic drilling rise in expense. The cost will also rise due to aging gas infrastructure that must be replaced. These exorbitant costs will be passed to a shrinking pool of customers who rely on gas appliances. Vote yes and protect our young people from the outrageous prices they will have to pay if we fail to respond quickly and decisively to the climate crisis. Electrification can be affordable and lower utility bills. Both my inexpensive induction cooktop and air fryer.
Tammy? Tammy S.
Hello. Yes, hello. I am a resident and voter in San Jose. Please vote no on this electrification and carbon neutral strategy, as 2030 is only 7.5 years away. It's too ambitious and too expensive. Where will this secure funding come from? the homeowners who are already getting squeezed with the terrible cost of living and inflation right now. I am glad to hear that Santa Clara has used some more common sense and have their goal for 2045. That makes much more sense because just today, PG&E sent an email saying that they set their goal to be carbon neutral by 2040 and removing more greenhouse gases than they emit by 2050. So why should San Jose have earlier goals than PG&E? I live in an area where PG&E is very unreliable. We have extended power outages almost 1 to 2 times a month or public safety shutdowns. And it's ridiculous. They don't have the infrastructure. The grid isn't available.
Laura?
Hello, this is Laura Feinstein. I'm with SPUR. Good evening to the council members and Mayor Liccardo. I'm here in support of items 6.1 and 6.2. I'd like to keep this really short. I think that all the other speakers have really covered everything that's essential. These measures are important for climate change. They're key to addressing air pollution in the Bay Area, and they address many of the real problems that need to be understood and overcome around equity. So with that, SPUR urges you to advance these plans to both clean the air and fight climate change by voting yes on 6.1 and 6.2.
Matthew?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. Matthew Reed, Director of Policy at Silicon Valley at Home. We are here to support staff's recommendation to eliminate parking minimums and adopt traffic demand management policies. We see this as a common sense response to a whole range of challenges that we're facing. Obviously, the costs of constructing housing are tremendous challenges for the city. Parking is a tremendous part of that challenge, and allowing this flexibility will be super important going forward. We also believe that this policy will create the flexibility that will allow developers and communities to be responsive to changes, to adopt more sustainable and resilient options for the future. And we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Eugene?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Eugene Bradley, Silicon Valley Transit users. I speak as someone that was unfortunately priced out of San Jose and Silicon Valley back in 2004 because of a lack of affordable housing. And even worse, an area, I'm originally raised in New Jersey, from an area that was built for and around the private automobile. With all the obvious climate and emissions issues that have occurred, it is past time for San Jose to listen to what staff had to present and approve all 3 of these action items. The phrase I learned in New Jersey years ago is that you get what you build for. And when you build for private automobiles, that's what you get with all the emissions and stuff. Space that could have easily been used for housing, especially for older people, Black and brown people, seniors, and the disabled. So let's make it happen. Thank you.
Isabella?
Hi, my name is Isabella. I live in D6 and I'm from ICANN, one of the co-creation partners for building electrification. I know community members have questions about the feasibility, so I just want to share that similar initiatives have been adopted across the country. For example, Denver City Council passed last November a building decarbonization policy, making it the 8th US jurisdiction to do so. So many San Joseans might find building electrification overwhelming, but Denver just shows that these efforts are not unprecedented. And again, this framework is just a starting point. We know that further steps are needed to ensure smooth electrification, but the community should know that the framework will seek more input and will provide more support. So overall, I urge the city of San Jose to adopt the framework as a critical approach to eliminating greenhouse gas emissions. Thank you.
Diane?
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo and council members. My name is Diane Bailey. I'm with a community climate action group called Menlo Spark, as well as the Campaign for Fossil-Free Buildings in Silicon Valley. We appreciate all of the hard work and stakeholder outreach that has gone into these climate policies. Our coalition enthusiastically supports the proposed existing building electrification framework, the roadmap to carbon neutral by 2030, and the parking and transportation policies. Please approve agenda items 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. We need bold actions to help transition off of polluting fossil fuels if we want to have any hope of achieving a stable climate in the future and averting the worst impacts. Climate change is not a distant problem. We're already feeling the impacts, and we need to consider the extreme cost of inaction on climate, millions and millions of dollars, and I'm out of time, so I thank you for this opportunity. I hope you'll approve all 3 items.
Stephanie?
Yes, hi, thank you. My name is Stephanie Morris. I am a lifelong resident of Silicon Valley and San Jose, and I wanted to also voice my support for item 6.1, item 6.2, and item 10.3. I appreciate the effort that's gone into the community-based organizations coordination with the existing building electrification framework. I think that climate is the driving force behind this plan, but equity is really front and center, and that's super important for our community. This plan includes the creation of jobs that pay a fair wage and offer career advancement and offer educational support for homeowners. These items also are something that today's children don't have the opportunity to vote for, but they will inherit the consequences of these decisions. So they are incredibly important, and I appreciate the time and energy that's gone into making these important decisions. Please vote yes on all these measures. Thank you so much.
Enrique? Enrique, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, hi. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Enrique Navarro with the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. We took special interest in item 6.1 for the existing building electrification issue, and we just wanted to share the concern that a lot of our membership had, and some of the electricians that we consulted with. We did a study similar. We're working on a study right now, but we did one in San Mateo County regarding the full cost of mandating home electrification. And it's not simply the cost of switching out an appliance, it's also services and structural changes you need to make to a house in order to accommodate electrified appliances. So from low end to high end, it can go anywhere between $130,000 to upwards of $300,000 to make all these changes to a home to meet these the framework. So please consider this as you.
Jared?
My name is Jared Johnson, Area resident and Senior Manager of Policy and External Relations at Artera. I urge the council to pass the existing buildings electrification framework and adopt the climate smart carbon neutrality goal by 2030. Last summer, Louisiana had the strongest hurricane to ever hit in the state's history. Middle Tennessee homes were flooded overnight by a deluge of water, only to be described as catastrophic. There were so many heat waves in the Pacific Northwest, sending temperatures into triple digits, killing folks unnecessarily. And lastly, the town of Greenville burnt to the ground. Thousands of Californians were forced to evacuate, including some of my closest friends. So what is it going to take this summer? How bad do the catastrophes have to get for us to commit to stop emitting greenhouse gases? So I urge this council to take the strong and bold step to pass this electrification framework for existing buildings.
Gary?
Hi, my name is Gary, and I am a rising senior in high school at the Harker School in San Jose. Today, I'm here on behalf of the Harker Green Team, as well as San Jose Youth Climate Action Team, in support of items 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. Existing buildings account for 1/3 of San Jose's emissions. Considering our city's population of over 1 million people, these emissions are a big deal. Switching to electricity will shift our dependence from the fossil fuel industry to alternative renewable energy sources, making a systematic, sustainable, and long-term difference. I urge council members and the mayor to support the framework for existing building electrification and carbon neutrality by 2030. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Dashiell?
Hello, my name is Dashiell Leeds. I'm the conservation organizer for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. We applaud San Jose for establishing greenhouse gas reduction strategies that reflect the urgency of the climate crisis. The decarbonization of San Jose must be done equitably. We believe that the plans as written provide the framework for achieving this. We hope that the city invests heavily in community outreach, education, ongoing support programs, streamlining and rebates, and we're really happy to see that all of these are already included in the existing building framework and other plans. We fully support the city's equity goals, and we call on San Jose to explore and establish the anti-displacement and tenant protection ordinances that it's outlined. A crisis of this severity requires leadership wherever it can be found, and right now cities are leading the way on climate change. We're glad that San Jose, one of the largest in the nation, is stepping up as a leader. This is no small undertaking, and success will rely on the council's full commitment to the existing building framework, carbon neutral strategy, and transportation strategy. These actions could become a model that could be followed around the world, and we look forward to supporting this action. Thank you.
David?
Hi, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I'm David Noel, President of Erickson Neighborhood Association in District 9. On behalf of neighborhoods throughout the city, I ask that the new TDM policy framework include provisions to prevent overflow parking into existing neighborhoods caused by new developments, with ongoing monitoring and commitments to fix issues as they develop. Consider including provisions that could legally and enforceably limit the actual number of cars and developments to match the parking provided. At a recent District 9 leadership group meeting, Senator Dave Cortese, co-author of SB 9, stated that cities should revisit their objective zoning standards within the context of SB 9, especially parking ratios. Please be careful about giving up land use authority that our city still has to address projects built under SB 9 and SB 35. Finally, our future depends on transit that gets people from their homes to their jobs in a time comparable to driving. Please.
Ria?
Hello, my name is Ria Narang. I'm a San Jose resident and a member of SBYCA Silicon Valley Youth Climate Energy and an upcoming senior in high school. As the climate crisis becomes increasingly worse and worse, I can only emphasize the importance of the approval of the 3 action items recently presented, 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. These items will be in pursuit of more affordable and healthier housing, better indoor and outdoor air quality, more high-quality jobs, and the increased reliability of energy for critical facilities and services. Such efforts are necessary to create a healthier, safer, and more prosperous city for all residents. To keep it quick, San Jose will become a better and stronger and more resilient community by accelerating climate action and by moving to carbon neutrality by 2030. I deeply thank you for your time.
Patrick?
Good evening, council members. My name is Patrick Sigman. I'm a transportation planner and economist, and I've led dozens of parking studies throughout California. I also want to encourage you to support the recommendation to remove minimum parking regulations citywide. And I'd like to respond to some of the concerns that have been raised about existing overcrowded street parking in some neighborhoods. You should rest assured that as planners, we know how to keep curb parking from getting overcrowded using residential parking permits and prices and other tools. We know how to do that in ways that let existing residents keep parking for free while making sure that new developments don't result in overcrowded street parking. So many cities have done this already, and San Jose can too. So in short, hundreds of cities have already removed their minimum parking laws, and I encourage San Jose to follow suit. Thank you much.
Daniela?
Hi, my name is Daniela Castañeda, and I work with Silicon Valley Bike Coalition. I am also a resident of San Jose. I'm here to show full support for 10.3 to eliminate the parking minimum. I think it is time that we set forward policies that will make it better for us and safer for us to live here. I struggle with asthma, and in the last 5 years, my asthma has gotten significantly worse every year because of the heat, because of our climate. I think it's also will be a great catalyst to find other modes of transportation and not be so car dependent, allowing for lower income to not have to depend on vehicles to get from one place to another. Thank you.
Alex?
Hey, Council, it's Alex Shore with Catalyze SV. Just want to thank you all so much, the council members who've put out memos in support of staff's recommendation on the citywide change. Council members Carrasco, Foley, Mahan, Peralez, Vice Mayor Jones, and Mayor Liccardo. Thank you so much for your leadership on this issue. This has been 50 years in the making, this change. The time has come. We have new ways of getting around that are emerging and already exist, and they will go a long way to help addressing a lot of really important issues, including global burning, including getting more affordable housing, including supporting folks who use public transit and equity issues. So thank you so much to the council for your.
Bruce? Bruce?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I want to echo the most important thing I think is the young people that came up. They're the ones who are going to inherit the earth after we leave. And if we leave them a place that isn't hospitable, we've done not so good things for the planet and its people on it. I also want to keep encouraging to pass 6.1, 6.2, and 10.3. And also, one of the key things that was in the plan is the comment to monitor and manage things. There's a lot of ambitious things in this. It's going to take some work to put them into action. And so the monitor and manage part of it is a key thing. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Edward?
The city's climate smart goals and TDM measures are important and should be aggressively pursued. Combining these three items just cuts public comment by 2/3. Staff's presentation contains a number of errors. Upgrades for an electric heat pump is not just a $300 panel. That ignores a service upgrade, new meter, and upgraded wiring. The cost is typically between $3,000 and $5,000. For older single-family homes, the amount can exceed $10,000. The vast majority of cities that have reduced parking requirements have done so only in their downtowns or in specific districts. Staff's own graphic shows this, but Michael conveniently omitted that fact at both Planning Commission and City Council. Staff praises their own community outreach. When Commissioner Oliverio challenged staff, Michael insisted that they had met with neighborhood associations, including Willow Glen. Commissioner Oliverio is a board member of that association, so he knew that this wasn't true. Michael then insisted that, oh, well, we had met with a group of people while standing on Lincoln Avenue. Staff reached out to lobbyists and advocacy groups, not neighborhood associations and residents.
That was the last speaker. So back to the council.
All right, thank you. Thanks to all the members of the community who have advocated and worked with us in this very important endeavor. I have many questions and comments, but I'm going to defer those, but I do want to at least offer thanks. And forgive me if I don't get to everybody, but certainly want to thank everyone in our community who's been pushing so hard for many years to get us to this point. And I think we've accomplished a lot together, but we've got a lot more work to do, of course. And that includes Catalyze SV, Mothers Out Front, Spur, Greenbelt Alliance, Luna, ICANN, Vegelution, Forensic Caltrain, Transform, Save the Bay, SV at Home, Silicon Valley Bike Coalition, Urban Environmentalists, California YIMBY, Housing Action Coalition, a lot of other folks. So forgive me if I didn't get everyone in there, but there's been a lot of folks pushing, and we're very grateful that we've got such an engaged community. Really want to thank some catalysts who've been really instrumental in helping us here internally at City Hall. And those catalysts have been coming from the outside to give us resources, the most important resource being people who can help us work through these complex challenges. So I want to thank from Bloomberg Philanthropies and NRDC and Delivery Associates, Kimmy Narita, Elizabeth Stamp, Amanda Eakin, and Elena Olmedo, who's been embedded with us, and the city staff, and it's been really helpful. And of course, I really want to thank the leadership of our city team, particularly for the willingness to push through these important changes through this pandemic. So thank you, Carrie Romanow, and Rosalind Huey, and Kip Harkness, and John Risto, Chris Burton, Michael Brio, Jessica Zank, Julie Benavente, Ramses Madhu, Martina Davis, Ed Schreiner, Wilson Tam, Jared Hart, Ken Davies, Emily Breslin. Boy, there's lots of folks here I already named. Anyway, I will stop there. I think Ken and Emily actually no longer work with the city. I know we've got other folks who are still working and who are pushing, so I'm sorry if I've left anyone out. There's just some folks that we're aware of just at the mayor's office we've been working with frequently. And then within my own team, I want to thank Scott Green and Julian Lake and Kat Wilson for all their work as well. Why don't we take this in 2 bites? First, we'll start with 6.1 and 6.2 because I think we can talk about those in a fairly integrated way with one motion, and then we'll go on to the parking in 10.3. Unless anyone has any objection, we'll start that way, and we'll go to Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start first by thanking all of the people who came out tonight to speak on this issue. The number of speakers reflects the importance of what it is that we're discussing tonight and the importance of this issue. In particular, the young people who came out to speak, they always inspire me and give me hope for the future. They are in particular the ones who know the existential crisis that we're facing and the gravity of doing something about it. I'm continue to be proud of the city of San Jose for sticking our necks out to be an example for other cities around the country of what's possible. The mayor already thanked all the staff, so I didn't have to run the risk of leaving somebody out trying to thank them myself, but they've been great leaders and partners in these conversations as we're working towards this plan, and I'm excited that they're helping set ambitious goals for the city that if we set our minds to it, I believe we can achieve. There were obviously some graphics in the presentation that show that there are challenges and there's a lot of work to do, but I think it's doable, and I think that with the right staff and the right support from council, we can get it done. Carrie, I was going to ask you to put up slide 23 just for a minute so I can just talk about it for a second, maybe ask a couple questions. You know, what we're talking about here is not mandating a change that isn't going to happen, but facilitating a transition that is.
Councilmember Cohen, you're a little bit hard to hear.
Oh, am I? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the volume's a bit low.
Let me see if I can.
That's
adjust
better.
that.
That's better.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. I don't think I did anything. Okay. You hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. We're talking about facilitating a transition that's underway. We're not talking about the city mandating something that isn't inevitably going to happen. Carrie, let me start with asking you a question. You mentioned, I think in the presentation already that you know there will be phasing out, for example, of electric appliances over the next 8 years, whether we take action or not. And so, can you just? I think that might have been a different slide. Don't worry about that. But what? I guess I don't really need to ask the question because I think on your slide you said the Bay Area Air Quality Management District is suggesting a phase out beginning in 2027. Yeah. I had heard in my discussions with some other folks that they believe that they'll actually try to go for 100% phase out by 2029. The state is likely to pass legislation to phase out the sale of new electric appliances by 2030. Now, none of that is to suggest that somebody would have to replace a working appliance. Just that they would have to, when they reach the end of life of their appliances, replace it with electric appliances. This is the slide that I wanted to talk about just a little bit, especially on the cost side, because we continue to hear from people about some exaggerated sense of what it would cost them to make these changes. So you mentioned, it says here 14 to 17% less than natural gas replacement. So can you just provide a little context to that? If you were to replace an appliance with a natural gas appliance versus electric, what is the cost now and what do you expect the cost to be in the future?
Thank you. I'll start and then Julie can add some additional numbers to it. So oftentimes when folks look at the cost, they're sort of forgetting that there's a cost to replace the same with the same. And so that has an inherent cost. And what we try and look at is what is that incremental difference? And some of the incremental difference is impacted by where and when you include the cost of the panel upgrade as it's needed. sometimes we think a panel upgrade may not be needed if we can help you reduce energy consumption through other efficiency measures at the parcel. But we also think that when someone is buying an electric vehicle, that's the time to upgrade the panel to meet your long-term needs, not just the needs of the EV. And so some of it depends on how you bundle it, but some of it also depends on the age and the existing condition of the electrical system at that address. And so we have some general numbers, but I just want to relay that we know the same number is not true for every housing unit or every commercial unit. And so there's an exception to every rule, as I say. But when we look at the particular numbers as we run them, it is less because you also want to include the operating costs, as we kind of say down at the end. As San Jose Clean Energy continues to remind me, the cost of natural gas today is twice as much as it was this time last year. So certainly will be increased operating costs as well. And Julie, can you add a little bit of depth to the cost?
Yeah, so there's a full cost analysis in the building electrification framework and also in the frequently asked questions that we attach to the memo and have on our website. So that particular figure that you're mentioning, the 14 to 17%, is based on looking at both the HVAC and water heater, which we mentioned before, are the primary focus for electrification since they represent most of the natural gas usage. And most of that cost savings is really directly from the HVAC portion of it, because if you're changing out a natural gas furnace and air conditioning and going to a heat pump can provide both of those in one unit. And so there is actually a cost savings from that. And actually, we also see a benefit in the sense of many homes, that's my home, only has a natural gas furnace and no AC. And so when you're changing to the heat pump version, you actually are addressing or achieving a second benefit in the sense of, we know there's more heat waves, there's a need for air conditioning, and that can provide both of those in one unit. Does that answer your question?
Yep, very good, thank you. And obviously, we're going to need more air conditioning in the future because of the effects of what we haven't dealt with in the past. Just wanted to point out the panel upgrade piece. I had a conversation with a state senator who's disappointed by the misinformation out there that everybody needs a new panel in order to upgrade their electrical appliances. There are becoming more and more plug-in options that don't need new panels. And he's talking about legislation to help the state incentivize people to make the switch and teach them that they don't need to change their panels. But I know that one of the things I've talked to the staff about before is having the city maybe do an inventory of the panels in the city and helping people find out if they need an upgrade or not, and helping them prepare for that time in which they'll need to make the shift to electrical appliances. You mentioned the cost of gas. One of the fears people have is that somehow in 2030, PG&E is just going to shut off all gas supplies and you'll just be forced to switch then. I don't anticipate that happening, but I think I've heard you say before that at some point, the cost of operating the natural gas system that's aging and will have fewer users will become so expensive that it is possible PG&E won't be able to continue to do it anymore. Is that true?
I don't want to speak on behalf of PG&E. They are a for-profit company, and businesses will need to look at kind of what makes sense. But I don't believe that PG&E would make an abrupt move that would leave our community stranded.
Right. I guess I didn't mean to imply that, but at some point this is phasing out, and the cost for the remaining users will grow proportionally as well. I don't know that I need to spend more time. Most of the commenters said most of the things that are important about this. This is a great action. I do want to say that technology is going to help us as well in the future. We know technology gets better very rapidly in this field, and it's one of the biggest areas of growth of new companies in Silicon Valley is energy, and I think we're going to have some new solutions. I also want us to be looking at sequestration strategies as well. Obviously planting more trees, restoring our wetlands on the coast, and other things are going to help us sequester carbon. And I expect there to be some also larger scale sequestration options out there at the national level that will hopefully help us in this regard. So I'm going to make a motion. Let me get out, try to get everything together. I'm going to recommend, I'm going to move the staff memo on carbon neutral by 2030, along with a supplemental memo that updates the language that was recommended by the great direction of Councilmember Foley at the T&E committee last week. And then the additional council memo on the building electrification framework, and add to that the memo written by myself, Councilmember Foley, and Vice Mayor Jones. I want to address a little bit about the memo, our memo. From what I've heard from other cities, it's been very helpful to some cities to create a climate commission that involves experts in the community and helping come up with other strategies. I know that our staff is very capable, but I think they'll be helped by having people who are also out there learning about new technologies, new ways of doing things, and bringing ideas forward. So the recommendation in this memo would require a little bit more than a typical commission appointment. It would require some qualifications, and so we would have to craft an application appropriately to help screen applicants. We're asking, the memo asks for that to come back by next spring so we can budget in the next budget year, 23-24, whatever's needed in order to implement the commission and merge that commission with the Clean Energy Advisory Commission. In addition, number 4 in the memo asks staff to continue working with the planning staff to update the city's roof space design standards, figure out how to maximize solar or maximize green spaces on roofs of new developments, and also look into how we mitigate carbon emissions from building materials. We know there's a lot of embodied carbon in older buildings. The less we tear down old structures and replace them with new, but instead incorporate old structures into the new ones, the less our carbon footprint will be. So we ought to be thinking about building standards that encourage that kind of reduction as well. So that's my motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, that's a lot of emphatic seconds. Councilmember Foley?
Thank you, and thank you to staff who already have been named by the mayor.
I'm sorry?
Hello?
Okay.
I unmuted myself, sorry.
Okay, all good. Councilmember Foley?
Let me start all over. Thank you to the staff for your presentation on all of our goals and the directions. We'll talk about the TDM and parking later, but the first 2 items, 6.1 and 6.2, I completely support. I do want to go to the vision, and I appreciate all the work and comments that you made in your presentations. I think this is the 2nd or 3rd time that I've heard it, and it's really helpful and exciting that we're moving into this direction. I also want to thank members of the public for being here, particularly mothers out front, and the young people who are members of the Youth Climate Action Coalition, although I don't think I got the name of their organization right, but you get the point. At least I got the point. I want to start off by saying I completely support the 2 items, 6.1 and 6.2, and think it's a tremendous step in the right direction. A few months ago, we accepted the challenge of working to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030, but that's just an aspiration. We really need to create a framework in order to get there, and what's been presented today is a start in that direction. Moving in that, or as part of that, I want to talk about the vision statement. And Councilmember Cohen, I think you added this language, but I just wanted to be clear about it, that in the vision statement, which I appreciate you have that guiding language on page 3 of your presentation. In T&E, we changed it from moving to carbon neutrality to achieving carbon neutrality. In the presentation, I see that it's still moving to carbon neutrality. So I'm hoping that we really are working to achieve carbon neutrality and not just moving for it. Moving sounds
not as aggressive, and not as goal-oriented as we truly need to be. We're in 2022, 2030 will be here before you know it. And we need to be really aggressive, we need to be bold, and we need to be courageous in the decisions we make to preserve our environment and to move forward to electrification and achieve carbon neutrality. And that, we'll talk about the parking later, but for now, those are the two things I want to focus on. So my notes are kind of all over the place, so bear with me while I go back and forth and try to figure out what questions I actually need to ask at this point. So one of the ways to achieve carbon neutrality addresses electric vehicles and charging stations. And we are dramatically underserved with charging stations in certain areas of the city. In some areas of the city, we have, I don't know if we have adequate, but they're very easy to access. Certain parts of the city, based because they have more land, more single-family homes, just easier to find EV charging stations, which are really important. But if we're going to achieve the goals we need to expand the access to charging stations throughout the city, and I'm most concerned in our low-income areas where there's multi-family housing, and how will we accomplish that? What kind of goals or what's our way that we might be able to achieve more charging stations? Who's going to take?
Thank you,
Ramses.
Councilmember
Okay.
Ramses Madhu, Department of Transportation. At the moment, what we're doing is researching where the most the charging deserts are. The term food desert, charging deserts are, right? And then lining that up with funding, right? We as the city ourselves, we don't have a lot of money directly to add funding, but there is a lot of money coming through both state, regional, and federal funding programs, and we're going to be deriving that money towards those directions. We're also supporting legislation at the state level that drives new building standards that would increase the amount of chargers in new developments, particularly in multifamily. There's particularly a law right now being crafted that's trying to create parity so that multifamily units are treated roughly the same as single-family homes, which actually require. So one, programs internally trying to drive that, supporting things like Cal EVP, which was the grant program that I just brought up in the presentation earlier, where 10,000 new spaces are being done in San Jose. Some of those are going into multifamily. Another thing is whether those the charging needs to go in the multifamily units or directly or in the neighborhood services around them. So we're looking at libraries, community centers, and we might want to look at things like gas stations. Should gas stations have some kind of parity rule around as many gas pumps as chargers? That's a really great way to distribute things, since gas stations are distributed already as well. Those are some of the things we're working on.
Councilmember Foley, I'd also ask, maybe Zach can add some context in terms of what community energy has been and continues to look at to ensure we're getting charging during the day, because that's equally important.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, simply stated, pricing really, will impact behavior, and we think that, although there are a number of serious private sector actors in the charging space, and there's room for plenty of actors. If a bunch of charging gets built and the prices are such that everyone wants to just go home and have their own charger at home and charge at night, that's not a good outcome. So we, as a condition of having these chargers built or of the grants, I think some daytime charging incentives are probably important, and we have some pilots in mind that we've talked about at Transportation Environment Committee for later this fall and next year, and we think that'll be instructive for how to move forward.
So needless to say, we've probably got 10 angles we're working on now, all with money and grid stability in mind.
Great. I'll just throw one other out there, and that is lobbying our legislators, state or federal, to offer tax incentives for installing charging stations that are accessible during the daytime that would benefit the community. So maybe there's a way to do that in conjunction with affordable housing, that affordable housing developers get tax credits of some sort, but that is a legislative fix, and maybe that's a longer term goal, but something that might incentivize people. The other thing is, so there's one thing, if you build it, they will come, right? So you put in the charging stations, but you still have to have people who have electric vehicles in order to charge. And what many people need to know or need to be educated is the actual cost of maintaining a electric vehicle is much lower, particularly now with the cost of gas, than having a combustion engine, right? So we need to work on educating our community to understand that when they're ready to get a new vehicle, that an electric vehicle is the way to go, because in the long run, they're going to save money on it. And that's in the maintenance of it. And it's not just the gas that they're saving cost, it's in the all the fluids you put in your vehicle you don't put into an electric vehicle. So that's one area. I'm so excited about this. I think the electrification piece is and you've taken a lot of heat actually on information that the community got a hold of a few months ago, thinking that we were mandating electrification in our residential properties. I've asked you this before, and you've stated this before publicly, and so I'm going to ask you again, Carrie, just to state again that we are not mandating that anyone swap out their appliances if we adopt the electrification policy today. We are not mandating anything.
Thank you, Councilmember. Yes, there's no mandate in item 6.1 or 6.2. Our job is to convince people why it makes sense, both emotionally and financially.
Right, and thank you. There was a lot of misinformation which we work to overturn, and I appreciate you going on record again. I think you've stated that many, many times, but I just wanted to do it again in the context of this conversation. And that is that people love their gas appliances, but the gas appliances may fail at some point. They get old. And so it's at that time that we want them to consider electrification. And right now, even to swap out all the gas appliances that someone may have, the market may not have the capability, nor may we have the electricians, the contractors who can do that work for them. So we're not mandating anything. We're encouraging people and potentially working towards incentives that might be a way to encourage people. I remember when there used to be incentives when you swapped out your refrigerator to a more more environmentally friendly refrigerator, you got a rebate from the manufacturer. And though I see those things coming along too to make the change. We heard from the realtors, and so I'm going to bring them up because in the context of new homes and selling properties where they may be having their clients upgrade, how can we reach out to the greater community to educate them that it's a good idea to consider electrification and electrifying their appliances? What techniques do you think you can use to reach out to the broader community?
Some of the efforts that have been underway include the ability at many of our libraries to check out an induction stovetop, which comes with pans that work so you can try it out. I think a lot of the hesitation to transition from a gas range to induction is just you're not familiar with it. And so I'm not a good cook, but I can tell you it does work really well. And it's much easier to clean and much healthier for your home. But so getting people more comfortable with what a new tool is that they've not yet experienced, and certainly as we've said throughout our conversation, we need more conversation with the community so that we can tailor our communications and engagement in a way that resonates with them I think that was some of the confusion several months ago is, we used some word choices that didn't hit quite the way we thought they would. And that created some confusion, which we doubled back to try and clarify. But we have a lot of work to do, but we don't think all the moves are going to take place in one day or 1 year. So certainly, as we've articulated, focusing on heating and cooling air and heating water are the biggest bang for our buck right now, and they're the ones that, frankly, people have less emotional attachment to.
Yeah.
So we'll work those first, and then the others will come along when it makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that too, that people are really attached to their stoves. I don't happen to have a gas stove. I tried to get a gas stove when we moved in. It just didn't make sense 32 years ago. Too far to move that gas pipe into my kitchen, which was on the other side of the house. So I don't have it, but I know people who absolutely love it, and I get it because you can control the temperature a little bit more. I'm so excited that we are taking this step. In 2019, I brought forward a reducing of parking requirements, and now it's finally here. It's really exciting to see that and have that discussion. But the electrification is so important and critical for us to be bold, be courageous, and to vote yes and move this forward. With that, I'm finished. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Mahan?
Sorry, Mayor, I initially put my hand up for the
Oh, I'm
parking
sorry, forgive
issue.
me.
I'm gonna.
I was going
I'm
off
gonna
the
hold
old
back
list.
for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rennes?
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to start off by also thanking our staff, with Carrie and Rosalind and John and Chris, Michael, Jessica. I mean, I think that there was a huge effort from all of the staff. I'm sure that I'm missing a lot of folks. I'm just really impressed with all the wonderful work that has been accomplished, and the level of engagement really shows with the number of speakers that we've heard today and the quality of their statements and their input. And so I hope they take a little bit of time off during the summer to enjoy and gear up for the second part of all of this, which is putting everything into practice and the next steps. One of the things that before Councilmember Esparza left on a personal matter, she asked me to include an item which I think makes sense, and I think is congruent with what is within the recommendations of a group memo. And so Councilmember Cohen, I'm wondering if you would be open. I didn't hear you include Councilmember Esparza's blue memo on parking and transportation.
Yeah, that's because that relates to the next item, and we were handling them as two separate motions.
Oh, I'm
so
so
I didn't include any of the parking in this motion.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we would. I'm happy. Well, I'm not going to make the motion later, but yes, that's not the related. I did since I have the floor. I wanted to clarify to Councilmember Foley that my motion included the staff supplemental, which had the new language on the vision statement. Anyway, sorry.
Councilmember Cohen, just when you do speak, if you could just speak a little closer to the mic.
Oh, I don't. Okay. Well, I'm done. Thank you.
No worries. So Councilmember Rennes, we're just focused on 6.1 and 6.2 right now, but we'll come to 10.3 in a moment.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also want to add my thanks to all the staff for all their work on these issues. Regarding 6.1, I want to say again, I know I've said this before, I support the intent of building electrification, but I do have some concerns that I frankly think are being glossed over. Our energy consumption continues to rise even before we have fully electrified and before we have electrified the large appliances that are being discussed. And it will continue to rise as we try to build our way out of a housing crisis. According to the North American Electric Reliability Corporation's 2022 Summer Reliability Assessment, extreme weather events due to climate change will continue to threaten the reliability of our power grid. I think we all know about that. And I've heard from many residents in Almaden Valley that they experience power outages on a regular basis. We also know that the hottest 7 years on record have all occurred since 2015. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, that's all the more reason for us to take these actions toward electrification to help with preventing climate change. But my point is that climate change is already here. And I think, unfortunately, we are faced with the choice now about doing something about climate change, which may be less in our control, and actually having a resiliency effort. And there's a trade-off there. So I have concerns about that, as well as concerns about the grid itself and its ability to handle the electrification acceleration that we're talking about in 6.1 and 6.2. I think back to slide 11 in the first presentation, and what it will take annually, the kinds of actions it will take annually to meet our goal by 2030. And I just, again, I haven't seen, I asked about this at T&E. We haven't even gone total green throughout the city because the city cannot afford to do so. And we don't have an estimate for what it will cost to accelerate our goal to 2030 and the cost to the public. So I just have real concerns about that. And I just say, I think that we should be focusing our efforts on developing our urban villages as a way to reduce our carbon footprint and our carbon output in the city. And I fully support all of our education to ensure that our residents understand there are other things that they can do to reduce their carbon footprint that doesn't cost them thousands of dollars. We know we don't have full conversion to LED lights, for example, from fluorescent and even incandescent bulbs. And there are other items that they can do, such as even just switching to Energy Star appliances for the electric appliances that they have as they're changing out those appliances. So I think building electrification in theory sounds good, and it of course would get us one step closer to carbon neutrality. And I do support encouraging folks to convert if they can afford it and as it makes sense. But I just want to make sure that we are truly considering the structural and economic realities in our community when we're pushing this policy forward. And I have the same concerns about 6.2. I just think that, again, we haven't talked about the trade-offs on climate resilience versus the acceleration to carbon neutrality. And I think that we should have that discussion when we're talking about costs, and that we need to have those discussions with costs. I appreciate the aspirations. I really do. I have an electric car. We charge it at home because it's cheaper to charge it at home. When we replaced our furnace a couple of years ago, we actually have a heat pump, but we also still have a furnace because it was cheaper to have both than it was to just replace the AC unit and to with a heat pump to not have a gas furnace anymore at all, because it was frankly cheaper to have two different to have the gas and the electric. It was cheaper to have two different sources of energy. So I think that everyone needs to be able to make these decisions, and I hope that we can help them by providing accurate information. But saying that we don't need to do things like upgrade our boxes, which I would have had to upgrade my box if my car couldn't plug in and sip from a regular electric outlet, which it can do because it has low range, because I bought a 2015 car in 2021. I have real concerns about what we're telling people versus what is actual reality right now for them. Thank you.
Anybody want to respond or no? Okay. All right. Other comments, Vice Mayor Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I wanted to just reinforce what Councilmember Foley had you state, and that is that our residents don't have to worry about someone from our city staff kicking down their door and forcing them to give up their gas-powered appliances. So that is not going to happen. There's no expectations of that happening, and it's not something that's being proposed. So I want to make sure that members of the audience who previously misinterpret what staff was trying to do is just very clear on that. But I also want to make just having a specific example. And this kind of goes to some of the questions and statements that Councilmember Davis made. So I have a gas-powered furnace in my house. It's 10 years old. So based on this framework that you're proposing, that we're proposing, what does that mean to me financially in the near term and the long term?
Thank you. I mean, the direct answer is I don't know. But, what if we could make the numbers work such that you could get a brand new furnace that used less electricity or had a reduced total operating cost and kept your house healthier, and you got air conditioning as part of it, then that might make you make your own choice to move to a new heat pump system, much like many people transition from a gasoline-powered car to an electric car because it makes financial sense for them given their commute, or it's has other amenities that they prefer. So our focus will be making the numbers work and moving towards that tipping point where it makes sense, particularly for instrumentation and equipment that is still functional and still has 2 to 5 years left. But having said that, what we need to work on is preparing people and structures so that when that furnace or that natural gas furnace or water heater fails, we are able to do the transition to electric then. And right now that's not true without planning, because you may have other adjustments to make before you can swap out a natural gas water heater with an electric water heater. And so the conversations with the community will be around inventorying people's equipment so they're aware of what kind of, much like I guess when you replace your roof, you think about how you're going to do that and when it's due. And so pre-planning, pre-conversations, and certainly pulling out our calculators and talking about what makes sense.
Thank you for that. Just want to go back to kind of my line of thought. So that being said, again, my furnace is 10 years old. Maybe it has another 5 years, 7 years.
Maybe 5.
Maybe 5. So we go through this process, and at the end of 5 years, if it goes out, then I'm forced to buy an electric furnace and incur whatever cost to do upgrades and upgrade my panel and all the other costs associated with that. I would be in a position where I wouldn't have a choice, or I'm just trying to, just for the public, I'm just trying to put it in real terms in terms of how it's going to impact them.
We are seeing signals from the state that there will be a mandatory swap out on burnout before 2028. So most likely around the time your furnace starts to falter, you will not be able to replace, because that will be some state or local air quality mandates. One of our goals is to ensure that when that big swath of work is ready. So when there are many houses, many structures in San Jose that want to install new equipment, that we have local workers that can do that equipment, and that we're able to support that needed transition, because when there's a shortage of workers, the price goes up. So we need to do that training now, and we need to prepare for it. So it's sort of a lot of pre-work, getting people comfortable, and then making that switch. I might sort of make it analogous to when you used to be able to go to get an incandescent light bulb, and it was an easy choice, frankly, and cheaper. And then all of a sudden, there were many different types of light bulbs you could get, and it was confusing and more expensive. So what we want to do is do that education so the transition is smoother.
But a lot of this is being dictated by the state. It's not necessarily.
That's
it's
the
not necessarily us driving this. We're trying to prepare for it.
We are not mandating anything, and we don't have a timeline that says when a mandate would make sense. But we also don't want our community kind of unprepared for it when it comes, because we do think there's prep work that needs to be done, and we do think it is less expensive, creates a healthier environment, and produces local jobs. So we do think there are lots of things that make it make sense, but we're not proposing a mandate at this time.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I neglected to mention some folks who are really important in all this, and my thanks. Of course, I know I forgot others, but really want to thank Lori Mitchell and her team, since San Jose Clean Energy is absolutely essential. None of this works unless we have GHG-free energy. And the good news is we've got a great team that has gotten us to 95% GHG-free on our grid, which is tremendous, though obviously we know we have more work ahead. I want to just ask a couple questions I know come up a lot, Gary. Well, let me just ask one that's totally self-serving. I'm a cheapskate, and I've had an electric car since 2012, and I was very intrigued by this notion of being able to charge a car in the daytime, so that way we're not paying those higher costs that we're going to be paying in the early evening. And it seemed like it would be really great if we had free charging here at City Hall, or maybe it was a little cheaper here at City Hall. And I'm just wondering, who do we go talk to about all that?
I think the guy to your left.
Oh, is that right? Okay. We'll talk after. All right. Cool. Hey, going to the issue about sequestration, I think Councilmember Cohen raised it. The report from Lawrence Livermore estimates 9% of our GHG emissions over the next 30 years or so, no, 20 years, I guess, could be eliminated through sequestration. And I assume we believe that. I don't know anything about, whether the science. I always assumed it was a relatively small amount that we could actually sequester. If we believe that's true, shouldn't that be one of the accelerators in our pathway?
Thank you.
We're talking about natural working lands.
Yeah, so in the natural working lands document, we do talk about around a 15% sequestration-ish opportunity.
Okay.
We have a lot more work to do to understand that. It's also not likely something that that can happen in the next 2 to 3 years. And so as we work with OSA and others, we need to learn more about what moves make sense, the costs and the ROI on those moves. But it is an area that we feel strongly needs investment and needs exploration. And so we'll continue in that partnership, and that as we move through these steps, we'll start to engage again with OSA.
Thank you. I know you explained this to me once before, but I just want to make sure I've got it. We're trying to get to carbon neutral by 2030. We're pushing hard. We're going to get there. We're going to be the first city to do it. But we know even if gas appliances and gas vehicles were phased out tomorrow, we still have these things sitting around in 2030 emitting GHG. So explain to me how we get to carbon neutral by 2030 in that world.
how we get to carbon neutral in an absolute world?
No, but in 2030, knowing that we're still going to have these clunkers sitting around. People are still going to be using them.
So we're not looking at getting rid of, every classic car out there and making any of those types of bans or mandates. I think when we look at the predominant sources of our emission profile, we think of it more in the same vein as zero waste, which doesn't mean that there's nothing that goes to a landfill in absolute sense, and nothing that doesn't get recycled. It's more, when you round up, and so in that 95-ish% range, and the more we can get people to drive the non-electric vehicles, the more reductions we have, and so it doesn't have to be an absolute, but we do think that moving in that direction will get us pretty darn close.
Okay, thank you. And I know we've got a lot of battles to get through to achieve this goal. And by the way, I think one that's coming at us pretty fast is net energy metering at the PUC. I'm hearing that they're now taking that up again. I thought they'd put that on the back burner, but it looks like it's coming at us again. And what the PUC could do to undermine solar and storage in our community and throughout the state, I think would be really devastating. So I hope we're going to be fighting hard on that. But the other, bluntly, is the issue of grid resilience. And I think Councilmember Davis is fundamentally right about the challenge. We're relying on a grid that's not reliable. We hope it's going to get reliable. I'm not confident PG&E is going to figure that out at the rate it takes to do any undergrounding, particularly since that's going to be a small amount of their total infrastructure anyway, and we know how costly it is and how long it takes. I suspect it's going to really happen through much more innovative approaches around distributed generation and storage. But I don't think that these objectives around sustainability and resilience are mutually exclusive. I think they're quite complementary. I do think, though, we have to be mindful of resilience. And I know there's a lot of dissent about what the city's doing or not doing, for example, around fuel cells. And I don't think we've had a single one permitted anytime in the last couple of years since we passed that exemption. But nonetheless, it becomes the all-consuming issue. And I think we just need to acknowledge the fact that we've got a real challenge with this grid. I don't think anyone's brushing that under the rug, but we've got to do both things because we can't simply wait for the grid to get resilient before we do something about climate change. So I appreciate the concerns that Councilmember Davis has raised. They don't in any way inhibit me from saying let's push ahead, because we just got to do both things, and that's the bottom line. And I don't know if you have any views, Carrie, about how it is we reconcile those two issues for those who decide they want to pit them against one another. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think they're isolated efforts. I think, as you indicate, they're very complementary. I mean, we need to diet and work out, so we need to do both, and that's what we're going to do.
Boy, it doesn't sound that much fun when you put it that way. You just lost Vice Mayor, but hopefully we'll solve his vote. Okay. Councilmember Cohen.
Just quickly on the resiliency question. I had a meeting with a third party, not PG&E. Cal ISO right now has an RFP out to put in redundancy in the grid. And what they're soliciting are bids from potentially private third party separate organizations of PG&E to bring additional lines, and two into this county. There'll be one coming up from South County into downtown San Jose, and one coming up down from Fremont or Newark into North San Jose to Santa Clara, and they're going to be a buried grid. And so they're across the state. Cal ISO is expecting the next 5 years to build this grid resiliency. So this work is happening, and I just want to make sure that we need, that we're not assuming that the grid is going to be what it is 8 years from now. it's going to be there is an effort and money being spent to upgrade the grid. So I am optimistic that we'll be able to have a grid that's more resilient by the time we get to some of our goals.
All right, thank you. To vote for walking and chewing gum collectively. All right, we are now at a point to take a vote on this first tranche, the motion on 6.1, 6.2. Let's vote on that.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Perales, Perales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
No.
Esparza, Arenas, Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo.
Aye.
Motion passes.
This is Arenas. I'm an I as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That passes. Let's go to item 10.3, which is the parking and transportation demand management. And I see Vice Mayor reaching for his button.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I make my motion, I just have a couple of questions. One is, in the presentation, you allude to the fact that we're not new to this to the game in terms of parking minimums or eliminating parking minimums. Do we have any case studies or examples that we could share with the community on other cities that have done this? And I swear, Ramses, I think I've asked you this question a couple times before. Case studies and examples of other cities that have implemented this program, and what are some of the outcomes?
I'll give a small answer. Ramses Madhu, Department of Transportation. I'll give a small answer there, and then Wilson might have some more backup for me.
All right.
Yeah, we're seeing this across the country, both in citywide efforts as well as in particular areas, downtowns and things like that. One that comes to mind is San Diego, where it's eliminated downtown and denser area parking. And as I understand it there, they are seeing this to be well adopted and appreciated both by developers and the neighborhood. I'm looking at the map here. Wasn't showing me of all the different cities, but I'm drawing a blank on examples. Can you give any more, Wilson?
This is Wilson from DOT. Before, during the process of this policy development, we have reached out to various cities who have done this recently. We have reached out to the city of Santa Monica, the city of Honolulu in Hawaii. We've also reached out to our peer cities in the county, such as like San Francisco, so like in our Bay Area, like San Francisco and also Sunnyvale. And so the general feedback from these cities that we interviewed with is that there are, support for removing the parking minimums. These cities have done the parking minimum removal in their unique ways. Some cities found that it might be good to eliminate parking as a city. And some city felt that like some parts of their cities are more ready than the other parts of the city. So in the case of San Diego, for example, they only removed the parking minimum in the downtown area, but not the rest of their city. Interestingly, their approach to those is driven by the fact that they have other policies in play that try to address transportation issues. For example, in the case of San Diego, even though they only remove parking minimum in certain areas of their city, but they have their other policy directions, such as they have updated their VMT policy to allow for high VMT development to contribute towards a bucket of fund that can be used to fund transportation improvements or projects in other areas of their city, such as their downtown area. So there's other policy efforts in play that allow them to consider to remove the parking minimum removal requirements in certain areas of the city.
I'll add just a little bit more. There was a study done in Seattle after the policy change there, and what was found was parking was generally still provided, but just less, right? We saw buildings, sites still coming in and doing what we think they would do here, right? Which is still build parking into to the level of need, and that can be less than the parking minimums that we're used to now.
Okay, so my understanding is that for a lot of these projects, in order just to get financing, they're required by the banks or whoever they're getting their financing from to have a certain level, minimum level of parking, regardless of what city policies are. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, that's correct. We've been in conversation with developers, and so developers, in large part because the people that finance their development, they try to minimize risk, right? So when they build a building, they don't want to be a pioneer in terms of reducing parking. They're really looking at, well, what is the market here? What do people want in terms of the availability of parking? And then they'll require the developer, if they're going to finance their project, to put that level of parking in, with the idea that if the project doesn't succeed because it doesn't have parking, then the people that finance it end up with a bankrupt project. So yeah, so that's very much the case. We've seen in the Bay Area, including San Jose, projects that have proposed no parking and have been approved from no parking. And we know the word on the street is that they had trouble financing them. So I think not that there couldn't be projects that get financed with no parking, but we anticipate that in most cases the parking will be provided to meet the need.
Thank you. So truly, the market would dictate that the availability of parking. If we have a project, we have a TDM plan in place with specific requirements and measurements, and the project does not meet those requirements or measurements, would there be any recourse, or is just, it is what it is?
We're still, Ramses Madhu DOT, still considering exactly how to manage that portion. The way that we have it current 5-1 policy and the way that we implement that is that there is monitoring of TDM measures, especially if someone uses a trip cap. And we do have measures built in there that do annual monitoring for a certain amount of time. And if continued success is found, monitoring then slows down. So first 3 years, say, we ask for a minor report, and then if those are all successful, then we ask for a report every 3 years, so many years. And then there's a compliance mechanism that gives development so much time, and I don't remember the exact period, but I believe it's 6 to 9 months to come back into compliance with that. And we do make sure that we allow them to be adjustable, right? The point of TDM is not that they do the TDM, it's actually to reduce trips, right? And so kind of what are you monitoring and how are you ensuring that the right things are happening. So we're, as we've been given a little more time here to write the ordinance by the end of the year, we're still figuring out exactly what the monitoring, maintenance, compliance regime will be, but those are the thoughts that we've had already put into policy.
So if they're not in compliance, there's really no real recourse that we have. We're not going to fine them or.
In current policy, there is a fine for non-compliance equal to the VMT non-reduction. We haven't applied that here yet, and we're still thinking through exactly how to do that, Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, the TDM measures will be part of their permit. So if they've, in monitoring, if they're not achieving the TDM goals, I think what we're thinking about is they have flexibility. If, hey, these things aren't working, want to change it, they'll be flexible to change them, but they have to hit their goal. So our intent is not to take away their permits. I mean, I suppose there's that threat looming, but really to sort of work with them to figure out what the best approach is to get them on track to meeting what they agreed to when their project was approved.
Okay. And another question is, particularly in Councilmember Esparza's memo and also Councilmember Mann's memo, they alluded to where there seems to be some type of disconnect with the outreach that you've done and the feedback that you've gotten from the community and feedback that they're getting from certain parts of the community. about the concern about lack of available parking now and how the situation is going to get worse. So can you kind of help me work through where the disconnect is in terms of what you've done in terms of your outreach process and what they're hearing from their constituents? And
Well, I'll let my colleagues jump in, but I'll say we have done, because of the feedback we were hearing, we did engage Luna and Vegelution to do outreach specifically to those people that in those communities. So what they're experiencing really is an issue, is result of the housing crisis and an existing condition. And so I think, we're going to have to take a different look. I would say, a parallel or different process to understand some of the things that can be done to solve an existing problem. There are some, things that we definitely can explore. Some of them are suggested in the memos, actually. I think we're looking, so what we're talking about here really is newer development coming in, or people occupying existing spaces for businesses. And our sense of it is if there isn't parking in a neighborhood, that when someone is building a new development or trying to occupy existing business or space, that they're going to ensure that they have the parking to meet the needs of their customers. And so what we're looking at the TDM approach is how can we build a more multimodal system and provide measures that will help people get around in other ways besides just driving. And so in our outreach, we did reach out through Luna and Vegelution, identify what would be the type of TDM measures that would help these communities with their daily transportation needs. And we're exploring including those on the list of options a developer could provide, and exploring ways we could give those a heavier weight so there's more of an incentive for the developers to pick those in neighborhoods that have an existing parking issue shortage.
I'll just
add anything.
Yeah, thanks, Ramses DOT. I'll just add that the reason we're doing parking and TDM is exactly this issue. Taking away parking minimums, developers like this idea and neighborhoods might not, right? And so the reason we added TDM to this effort was specifically so that developers had to add in elements to actually live up to the promise that parking removal offers, right? So that we're saying you can reduce your parking here, but we need you to do something for the community as you're doing this. And so these investments into the transportation system that are not car focused, right? This is transit passes, this is more bike lanes, this is more infrastructure for pedestrians, this is more support for folks who are trying to get around by these other modes. That's why that TDM is there in the first place. And that's why when we went to NRDC to get funding for this effort, we insisted that TDM come along with it.
Thank you for that. Obviously, I'm on the memo with the mayor and my colleagues, so I'm supporting eliminating the minimums. But there's a concern I know from my residents that I talk to, and I'm kind of picking it up from some of my council colleagues, that there's some skepticism on changing behavior through TDM. We eliminate the minimums. We put in these TDM policies and guidelines, and it doesn't impact behavior. Can you speak to that concern and the strategy that we're pursuing to address that? And again, some examples of other cities that have changed behavior and had effective TDMs.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Councilmember Ramses Madhu, DOT again. So one, I'll say this is not being done in isolation. As Michael mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, this is being done along with a lot of other things. On the land use side, we're planning urban villages to get the density we need so people will change their behavior. On the transportation side, we're implementing, or we're bringing to council soon, a citywide transportation plan that specifically finds the kinds of strategies to help change our infrastructure to support people getting around by modes other than the car, and the car as well, but other than the car. We have a recently adopted bike plan that helps us draw a much more robust network of all ages and abilities bicycle infrastructure. We're building out, we're finishing off many area transportation plans that find all of the smaller things that need to be done within different neighborhoods to create the possibility for people to change their behavior. We're not going to change behavior by TDM alone. It is an incentive layer on top of many other things that need to get done for this to happen. Removing parking, adding incentives for people to do things, and then actually building out those other possibilities is the overall strategy that we're trying to implement here.
Thank you for that. I can tell you that I've recently visited DC and New York. I've been to London, used their public transportation system, walked and walked and walked. And then when I come home, I don't even want to walk from the couch to the refrigerator. So I understand based on how we build out, our cities, and that it can impact your behavior and change your mindset. So I'm an example of that. And so also you said that you're receptive to Councilmember Esparza's memo in terms of doing some more outreach and making those connections with the community and getting that kind of feedback to really, one, understand their concerns and allay their concerns and provide them with data and facts and more information to address their opposition or reservations.
We're always happy to do more outreach and education on what we're trying to do.
Right, thank you. So I'll make a motion to accept our memo from the mayor, myself, Councilmember Perales, Carrasco, and Foley, as well as adopt Councilmember Mann's memo and Councilmember Esparza's memo, and then also have an addition to include some ADA parking requirements, accommodations as well, because I think that's something that has not really been addressed, and we want to include that into the motion.
Yeah, I mean, so just some clarity. So there are requirements for ADA parking currently. We're not taking those away. Just to be clear, though, what that means, when you provide parking, there are rules about how many spaces would have to be ADA. So that we're not proposing to take those away. There could be situations like you'll see at old off corner markets or retail in around this neighborhood downtown where they don't have any parking at all. And if there were development like that, if you're not providing parking, you don't have to make spaces that you're not providing ADA. But since we're anticipating most development provides some level of parking, there would still be requirements for ADA, that some of the spaces would be accessible. We're not proposing to change that.
Okay, so that wouldn't change.
Yeah, we're not proposing to change that.
Okay, well, I won't include that as part of the motion, but the rest of the motion stays the same.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Let's go to the Zoom screen. Councilmember Mahan?
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Vice Mayor Jones. I appreciate the questions you were just asking and you including my memo. And thanks to staff, by the way, for all of your work on all three of the items that we've heard together here this evening. I appreciate that. I think at least what I heard in the staff presentations was an acknowledgement that these are ambitious, aspirational, forward-looking policies that are really meant to facilitate a transition that I think we all know we need to support and we need to help make happen. I also think it's important that we acknowledge that we're gonna have bumps in the road. There are going to be real challenges. I think Councilmember Davis was very right to raise some of those challenges. Doesn't mean we shouldn't move forward, but I think the dose of reality is, at least from my perspective, very welcome. And I think similarly on parking, I think maybe the most important point to my mind, at least, is that we know that not all neighborhoods are going to experience this policy change the same. I think the reason we are pursuing this change is because many, if not most parts of the city are overparked. And there's a chronic underutilization of parking, and we're right to recognize that there are all kinds of negative externalities for our community due to that. I also think the flip side is there are absolutely some neighborhoods, some of which I have personally walked through recently where the opposite is true, where people are literally parking a few blocks from their home and walking every day and really frustrated. And it's just one more burden added on to their daily experience that's hard enough. And I do think we need to recognize that. To me, I think the key point here, which I tried to just briefly articulate in the memo, and I just want to re-articulate here for everyone, is I really hope that we see these policies as dynamic and that we're collecting data along the way and ready and willing to make adjustments and to try to implement mitigations. Because while, as I think Ramses said, or maybe it was actually Michael who said this, while that condition in some neighborhoods of not having enough parking for the population density is pre-existing, it's also one that this policy could really exacerbate with a couple of additional developments if the TDM strategies, as I personally suspect, don't meaningfully move the needle on how many people are taking a car or to get around. So I just think we all need to acknowledge that there's a lot of uncertainty here. There are going to be some neighborhoods, probably some of our most vulnerable neighborhoods, where the impacts may be disproportionate. So I just hope as we continue this conversation, come back with Move San Jose, that we're just being sensitive to that and willing to take another look at the residential permit parking program and the many other solutions that aren't maybe easy or fun to implement, but maybe important for protecting quality of life for folks who frankly are kind of living on the edge in our city and don't need one more burden added to their daily experience. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I appreciate the direction we're heading in. I think it is the right direction, but I also want us to be willing to acknowledge that the impacts may not be so great for some members of our community, and I'm hopeful that we can find ways to mitigate those. So look forward to continuing the conversation, and I'll obviously be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jimenez?
Mayor, thank you. I think Councilmember Cohen had his hand up first. I can wait my turn if you like.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. So, sorry about that, Michael. I do have some questions just about the process. So, tonight we're giving you all some feedback, thoughts, ideas, and such. You all are going to go back and draft an ordinance and then bring that back to us, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And so one of the questions I have, I guess, or just to throw something out there, and I suspect that you've maybe thought about this already, but curious as to how you think my example, how it would play out if and when we get the ordinance going, and also hoping you consider it as it relates to things that may come about because of what we're doing today. And so, as an example, there's, there are projects around the city that have massive surface parking lots. For example, there's some in my district, and so let's just say, we look out to 6 months into the future, we have this policy in place and ordinances, again, massive surface parking. And the owners of the property, they already have some commercial space there, but in their mind, they were overparked initially when they built that out many years ago. And so if they attempted to then move forward and maybe eliminate some of the parking, do you envision there being a process by which, I'm not sure if grandfathered in is the correct term, but by which they would be able to adjust their site to accommodate or to be sort of in line with the new policies that we're pushing and passing?
Yeah, so I mean, if they have an existing entitlement or approved permit, they would then have the option to come back and reapply and modify their permit to conform to our new code, but they aren't necessarily couldn't just get away with get rid of the parking, right? So if they have a lot of excess parking, they very likely have a permit that said this is how much parking you need to have to provide. Correct. And they probably, I'm guessing they'd want to build something new on part of the parking lot. So they would need to come back through planning and get an entitlement or an approval to remove the parking and build something new in the parking lot.
Yeah, my assumption wasn't that they were going to be able to go out and just do it outright, but I guess what I'm curious about is in the ordinance that you all are going to draft, do you anticipate that as a possibility? And if so, do you intend to include a path for developments that seek to go down that route?
Yeah, I mean, we are so we are drafting a policy anticipating that property owners or developers could be interested in developing on portions of underutilized lot spaces on their site. Yes.
Okay.
But it's not. I mean, again, if you're building something new and you're changing your landscape plan and et cetera and so forth, you can't just do it. You have to come back and you know, unfortunately for them, you got to come talk to us and we got to go through or take you through a process. So
for what you just described, there'd be a process for that as well. Correct? They would, yeah. I guess my point is just simply that, however, any of these projects, whether they want to, whether they want to expand their footprint of a commercial building, industrial building, whatever it may be, there's going to be a process in the ordinance you all are drafting that would allow existing buildings and owners of property to then expand and essentially reduce their parking, correct?
Oh, sorry, mic was off. Yes.
Okay. All right. And do you envision the same thing happening, say, for example, in strip malls that obviously are all around the city, in which maybe an extension of a building, an owner wants to extend a building and gobble up a few spaces, same type of scenario would take place in that circumstance, correct?
Yes. Correct. I mean,
Yeah, this is Martina Davis, Division Manager with Planning. Short answer is yes, absolutely. This policy would it anticipates that. It would remove the mandatory minimum parking requirements so that they could now look at their parking lot and, maybe expand into it. So yes, is the short and long answer.
All right, thank you. Well, those are all my questions. I'll be supporting the motion on the floor. Thank you so much for all the work. I think this is a very positive direction the city's going in, and very much looking forward to seeing the results of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, and as I suspected, Councilmember Jimenez asked one of my questions. That's why I let him go first.
Good work.
Just to follow up on that, though, it's not hypothetical. We have a prominent business in North San Jose that's had asked us 2 years ago or a year ago if they could remove parking and put in landscaping, and the planning department told them no because they wouldn't meet the parking minimums, and they were frustrated that we hadn't yet changed the policy. So I'm glad to hear there'll be a procedure by which companies like that can make different use of their land once this passes. The other thing I've been thinking of is it's not just about whether they do it voluntarily, but there are a lot of these large parking lots that are overparked that they're probably not going to, people aren't going to necessarily have the resources to tear out concrete and replace. But I'm wondering if the city, through our Climate Smart program, might actually, or open space program, might actually find ways to get grants or other ways to help some of these shopping centers with way too much parking repurpose some of their land. I have one in our district that there's an area in the back of that parking lot that has never had a car in it, and just kind of wonder about this paved over land that, is just going to sit there. And so are there any thoughts about how this policy might help us get some resources to solve some of those problems?
I was going to lean on our ESD folks, but
let's come back to that one. I mean, in the future, we
Okay.
don't need to talk about it tonight, but I wanted to float it as an idea. Along those lines, as we know, we have 2 times as many parking places as we have residents in the city, which means potentially half of the parking spaces in our city are going unused at any given time during the day. I've asked you this before about kind of parking management and maybe software and modeling that will allow us to be able to utilize some of those parking for off hours parking, maybe business parking during the night for residents and residential parking during the day for businesses, and find ways to actually leverage what we have already in the inventory without having to build more parking. So are we as a city looking at any tools for that kind of modeling of parking loads?
Thank you, Councilmember Ramses Madhu, DOT. We are looking at that in various different ways within the strategies being proposed in the Move San Jose plan. We are looking at things like unbundling, as well as shared use parking as policy elements. We already do some of this downtown. In particular, we have developments that are looking to build contracts with the city to use city parking garages, though that space is actually starting to run out because we've run enough contracts against that. So we're very open to that ourselves. We are trying to work with developers to build themselves into those kinds of parking shared models. I will say a lot of developers, for the reason they want to build their parking for their tenants a lot of the time, and they push against sharing parking. But as we can, the more we can loosen that up and the more we can create policies around incentivizing that, we could get more into that. So we are definitely thinking about that. You were also asking about the technology to do that. This is something we've looked at various ways. They do demand-based parking pricing like they do in San Francisco. While we've looked into that, our current estimate, our current research has shown this to be more expensive than it is worthwhile at the moment because of how much it costs to set up and run a system like that. But of course, we've done the research once, doesn't mean we won't do it again. So we can, at some point, be looking at that again. But we are doing that. We also do have a lot of the technology to do that kind of thing already in our downtown parking technology infrastructure. But again, it hasn't kind of come to us needing to turn on that switch, let's say.
I hope we find ways to incentive. Oh, sorry, was someone else gonna?
Yeah, if I can add to that on the sharing parking, because absent incentivizing, I suspect that I do think this will actually potentially remove an existing barrier from shared parking that we have. Right now, you'll hear businesses, they say, hey, I want to move a restaurant into here. It needs more parking per our code. They say, oh yeah, I talked to the people down the street. They're willing to lease me some parking spaces. For the city to approve that, that's a special use permit. It's quite expensive and time consuming. And honestly, when you talk to people about it, I would say most people just say, you know what, forget it, never mind. I'll look for another space with enough parking. So we have that barrier now that I think is actually stopping people from doing shared parking and moving into spaces using shared parking that this would actually remove. So even if we can't come up with incentives, I think that we will see more shared parking once we remove that barrier.
Great, that's good news. And I think incentives will be important too. And an example is at the Berryessa-Bart Urban Village, where developers planning residential and business, and they've said they want to have separate parking for both because businesses want their own parking. And I was frustrated and want them to think more creatively about how they can share the parking that they build. The question I have is, I think others have asked this question about how this is going to affect neighborhoods that exist. So new construction that comes in will have fewer parking spaces than people expect them to have. And they're going to see the numbers and they're going to say, wait a minute, in my house, we have 3 adults, we have 2.5 cars on average in our neighborhood, right, per house. Anybody else who moves into San Jose will necessarily also need the same number of cars as we have. I've been curious about how we're going to change that paradigm in people's minds, that it's okay, this new building that's coming in is incentivizing people to do other ways of transit, that the types of clients that they have won't necessarily have the same number of cars you're used to having. So there's a communication piece here as well, as far as the existing residents of our city feeling comfortable about these changes, right?
Thank you, Councilmember Ramses DOT again. Absolutely, and I think there's a few different layers here, right? One, we are seeing changes in behavior, generational behavior, purchasing behavior around vehicles and ownership, right? We are seeing younger generations buy less vehicles and have less vehicles in their homes. So that is a studied truth. We are also, again, as I was saying earlier, we're trying to set up an environment where we're not only reducing or removing parking requirements, we're also doing the TDM to incentivize people, and we're also at the same time trying to build out the infrastructure that people want to use when those incentives are in place. So I think we are seeing some of that behavioral change generationally, and we're doing all the other elements we need to try to create the environment and incentives to get us into this new place.
And we heard, obviously, people talking about whether we're going to end up needing residential parking permits in areas where it doesn't quite work as anticipated, right? If a building is built with less parking and now all of a sudden the neighborhood is overrun by vehicles from that building, are we prepared to begin to provide more residential parking permit neighborhoods to mitigate that problem?
We'll look into that. I mean, I think we're quite loath to expand the RPP program. It is an expensive program that is well under-resourced and has not shown to be very successful in actually managing parking and creates some real equity issues within neighborhoods. So I won't put a promise on that for DOT, but we will return with kind of what we're doing with that program when we're bringing the ordinance to council later this fall.
Okay, thank you. That's it for my questions tonight.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. All right, I just had a couple more questions. Appreciate all the good questions that have been posed. One is this: if we go to slide 29, the one with the 4 options, or the 4 categories and the 30 options that are suggested, so it would be providing developers with different options. I always conceive of these options as being things they would invest in that provide mobility options for residents, right? But I'm a little confused in the category of land use. We have things like density. Well, it seems to me density is kind of why we need mobility options. The fact that developers providing density wouldn't seem to me to be something that would be a TDM. Help me understand why density is there.
Yeah, thank you. And please pull out the slide for the parking in TDM on slide 29. Yeah, thank you. This is Wilson from DOT. And so there are, I think, 5 or 6 strategies related to the land use that are part of the manual that can address VMT reduction and also promoting a mode shift to other means of transportation. And the reason is because as development is interested in building more density, like more stories, his research has shown us that it brings people together and being able to create an environment that people interact or promote more interactions among people may result in situations where people can find ways to get around together, meaning that like maybe they have children going to the same school and they can carpool together, or they go to the major destinations and they can go to the transit and take buses together, things of that nature. So density do bring people together, and therefore, you know, and also with mixed use, it's about bringing the amenities near their residents.
I understand mixed use. If you have a ground floor grocery store, that'd be ideal, right? Everybody would love just to walk to that. Right. I'm guessing that's not true for quite as true for many other amenities. The density piece, though, it still doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yes,
if we're really talking about.
Maybe I can answer that. So one of the challenges we have with a city like San Jose, when it's low density, you need a certain critical mass, sort of a people or customer shed, if you will, in a small area to support businesses. As the city gets more dense, you can start to support more businesses in closer proximity, and then that enables people to maybe walk or ride a bike to them.
I understand that concept in the collective, but we're talking about a single developer on a single project. And it seems to me what we want out of that developer are mobility solutions. And I think it's hard for us as a city when we're battling the reality that we know we're going to be battling in districts like District 1, where you've got density encountering single family neighborhoods in a very direct way, to say, oh, don't worry, the developer's paying for a TDM. He's just building a lot of density. and everybody's going to feel better. And we know it's hard to say with a straight face because we don't really believe that. As opposed to this developer is investing in car share, bike share, eco passes, you know, you can name it. And you can say, well, that's actually going to move people, right?
Okay, fair point.
And so I just want us to be like as real as we can be with these options, so that when we're standing in front of the 200 angry residents, we can say something that is credible to all of us. I guess you get my point. I also think it's really important as we look at these options. We're in a rapidly changing world in terms of technology and markets, and these are going to need to be constantly revetted in terms of how we allocate points, what the costs are going to be to developers. I'm a little concerned that developers are probably going to find the lowest cost path to get the maximum number of points, and that won't necessarily align with maximizing mobility options for residents. And it's going to take a lot of sort of review from us. And I'm hoping that there's what's forming out there nationally, maybe some constellation of TDM experts who are saying, hey, we're watching the stock rise and fall in each of these TDM options, and this is how you should allocate. Do you see that happening at this point?
Yeah, Ramses DOT. Yeah, there's a lot of research around TDM. I mean, just tons and tons and tons. One of the most, quite a studied area. So we are getting a lot of information around this. The state actually has a document they update every few years. That's kind of the Bible for California in terms of TDM measures. So there is that. There's a lot of cities trying to share information. San Francisco's TDM program, for example, actually requires developers to turn in surveys and all of this stuff as part of their reports. We probably won't do that because we don't want to add that much burden to developers or ourselves, honestly. So yes, there's a lot of information coming in that way. How do we keep it fresh, right? We always add in a other as proposed and have a process for allowing for those new proposals. And then we would kind of amend our process over time. We see the same thing that's actually working coming in. We're going to start adding that into our lists, right?
Yeah.
And it does take staff time and work to update the list. So that's partly why you add a little bit of a and as defined kind of piece there to kind of allow for the conversation to move forward. And I'll just add one other thing, if my mind will remember it. Nope, sorry, lost my train of thought there, but that's that.
No, I think the point's well taken, and I really appreciate the model we're moving toward. It's the right model. It's going to require a lot of tweaking because I know we're not going to get it right. It's going to be impossible to get it right the first time, and it's going to take a lot of rethinking. But I appreciate this direction. I think it's the right direction. By the way, just one data point. I just talked to a builder who's building a high-density mixed-use project. Cost for him to build parking in a multi-level project, $100,000 a space. So construction costs are killing everybody, and parking's no different. Last question. It appears on one of the subsequent slides to this one that we're only really intending to require TDM on relatively larger projects, like more than 25 units. And as I think about a lot of the challenging infill projects we got out there that come up in neighborhoods where, someone tries to fit in 9 units here or 12 units there, it's kind of a context where a TDM plan would be really helpful. Because neighbors are probably more vociferous than ever about that, the parade of horribles that will result of traffic and parking problems for their neighborhood. So can you help me understand better why we only require a TDM at the higher levels?
Thanks. Ramses Madhu, DOT. Absolutely. So what are these limits? Where are they coming from? So these are the limits we set when we passed Council Policy 5-1, that transportation analysis policy. And we put these limits in so we weren't burdening smaller infill developments with more process cost, with more consultant costs, with more just time and money they would have to spend to get those. We worked hard on trying to figure out what the right balance was. At which point is a project neighborhood changing? And at what point is it small and getting in? Now, that number is actually different per neighborhood, right? I mean, a neighborhood of total single-family homes coming in with a 25-unit multifamily home, a multifamily project, it's actually kind of, could be kind of impactful, right? But in, overall, we figured these were the right numbers to bring in. That was the discussion that happened a few years ago. I can try to dredge up some of the details from that conversation. But
Yeah.
that's really where those were set, and we weren't trying to set different project limits while we're trying to add another policy. We're trying to streamline things, bring policies into alignment. So we decided to use the same limits.
Well, if we think what we're doing is moving into a world where we're no longer requiring developers to pay into the consultant industrial complex, if this is really going to be simple and they can sort of pick their options to get to their point total and that's it, why wouldn't we say, look, all builders got to do it because you don't need to be super sophisticated. You're just going to pick whatever the best cost option is for you.
How about we'll take it under consideration as we're going into the final write-up and kind of figure that out, because I don't want to make a promise one way or the other, but
Yeah.
we generally like to protect those smaller projects.
I appreciate you considering it. Michael?
Oh, I was just going to add, we don't really build small projects anymore. We did the 9-unit project. That's another issue in our housing crisis that we can talk about another time.
Okay, we will. All right, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the direction here. It's the right direction. I do think ultimately this is going to come down, as you suggested, to the lenders. And we're probably only going to get real progress when lenders start deciding they'll demand less parking. So hopefully we can get there. All right, any other questions? Not, we will move on to vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Perales, Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Arenas, Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Sorry,
And
paralysis aye as well.
Arenas is an aye.
I don't know what that was, but I think those were aye votes.
Yes, that was Perales and Arenas both voting aye.
Thank you for the translation, Tony. Okay, item 8.1 is, thanks everybody. Okay, 8.1 is a public hearing on the Downtown Business Improvement District Budget Report and Assessments for fiscal year 22-23. And ironically enough, there's a note here that says it's not to be heard before 1:30 p.m. So we managed to satisfy that requirement. Lucky for you all, I have a script to read, so enjoy the script. This is a public hearing for the approval of Downtown Business Improvement District's annual budget report and the levy of assessments for fiscal year 22-23. Before I open the public hearing, has the city clerk received any written protests?
No written protests have been received from the downtown BID.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Let's hear public testimony.
Blair,
Hi, hi, Blair Beekman here. You're actually going to be talking about items of 2022 and into 2023. I hope it can be a very open and accountable process with small business owners at downtown San Jose, and it could be a good learning process. You know, a simple, direct honesty and items on how to work into the next year can give everybody a good sense of what to expect, because I think we're still a little vague. And to start to make those things clear, helpful.
Blair, you're breaking up. We can't hear you.
Okay, well, I guess I'll end now.
Back to the council.
Okay, we're going to close the public hearing now. All right, the protests are clearly less than 50%. So the business owners in the downtown BID have supported the proposed levy of assessments. Thank you, business owners. I will now ask the council to consider the adoption of the resolution approving the budget report and levying assessments in the downtown BID for fiscal year 22-23. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
There's a motion from Councilmember Foley, second from Councilmember Davis. Let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Perales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Item 10.1 is land use consent calendar. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Is there any member of the public like to speak? All right, let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen, Carrasco,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley. Aye. Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, we're on to open forum.
Blair
Mm.
Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I hope I don't start breaking up again. Just I hope it can be an open and accountable process with the small zone issues of the downtown area into 2023. That can be really interesting for us as we're trying to learn that subject matter. It's new to us. We don't quite have it together and what 2023 will be. This could be a good clue for us what to expect. So good luck in those efforts.
Giovanni.
Hi, I just kind of wanted to finish off what I was trying to say earlier. I was just saying, like us in the Black and Brown community, we love our gas powered vehicles. I suggest people go to car shows just to, if they don't believe me. I think that designing homes without garages and parking spaces, it's like it's not good for. It's like a
Open
disservice to
forum is
disabled.
not for items on the agenda. So for open forum, you shouldn't be speaking on items that have been spoken about in council.
Okay, then I'm finished. Thank you for your time. Sorry about that.
Back to the council.
Okay, thank you. With that, the meeting's adjourned. In the immortal words of Dennis Miller, I'm out of here.